touchdown, Huskers! Isaiah Hunter with a Husker touchdown.
Who do you think you're fooling? Nobody's thinking about their job the day before a Husker game.
Backpedals the throw. Blitz picked up. Harris went out deep right sideline. 50-50 ball. It's picked off. The black shirts with a dagger. Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick. Sails the night for the Big Red. Drifts back to throw. Dumps it to an underneath crosser. Goody made the catch. Got popped. Ball's loose, but they say incomplete.
This is the Friday Husker Tailgate with Jack Mitchell, Nate Rohr, John Bishop, and Kevin Suits on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
All right, fire up the tailgate, the first home tailgate of the year. Nebraska and Akron coming at you tomorrow night from Memorial Stadium, 6:30 p.m. kickoff, 2:30 p.m. pregame here on KLIN, and we've got the team together to get you all ready for it, talk about what happened last week in Kansas City, discuss what is going to happen this week in Lincoln, and we are glad to have you with us today. I'm Jack Mitchell, along with Nate Rohr here in the KLIN studios, and special guest John Bishop joins us every Friday. Kevin Suits, 1011 Sports Director, will join us shortly, and Kenny Larrabee, of course, is doing all our video production. You can find us on the KLIN Facebook, Twitter page, and also my Facebook and Twitter page as well. If you want to go look for us there, go ahead, do it. See our beautiful faces and watch along and see the great production Kenny does with all the graphics and the excitement and the fun. Nebraska pulls it off against Cincinnati last week. It was closer than most of us thought that it would be. It's been interesting to see how the discussion has kind of evolved over the course of this week. How are people feeling now compared to when they were feeling when they left the building? How do the coaches and players sound now as compared to how they sounded when they left the game? And what all does it mean for the season this year? We will get into all of that. So we say hello to our team first. Nate Rohr, good morning.
Good morning.
And it'll be Nate's 2025 debut on the PA mic at Memorial Stadium.
Hopefully I remember how to turn it on.
What do we do for prep for the first day? What have we been doing? We've been doing vocal exercise. We've been doing pronunciations. What are we doing?
So going over the rosters, and I've got my little charts coming together nicely. Thank you to Akron for actually putting out a depth chart, unlike other schools around the country. Checking their pronunciations. I got the script last night. I'm juggling fiery torches at halftime, so be sure to be in your seats for that.
Nice.
No,
that's good.
Kidding.
That's good. Well, they can't get Red Panda to do football, so they have no choice.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, they've got to reach somewhere, but no torch juggling. But at any rate, going over the script, I'll go over the script tonight, and from there, just show up 4 hours before kick and yell a lot on third downs, and here we go.
All right. There we go. And John Bishop here joining us, getting ready for a big weekend, was in Kansas City as well last weekend, so we saw him down there. Hello, John. How are you doing today?
I'm awake. We're good to go. It's good to be back here in studio.
Yes.
Back where it all began. Ready for a home game.
Exactly.
Ready for a night game.
Ready.
Ready to go drink beer at the stadium.
Oh, that's
legally.
Right.
Yeah,
wow.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
well, actually not, because we'll be in the Ivory Tower. So.
That's true.
Oh yes, that's
very
true. But you could go downstairs and grab one.
That's true.
I'm not sure as a home fan what I'm more excited about were I to be going to the game, which I don't think I am, although that can change.
Yeah, sure.
If it's that there are, now adult beverages available for consumption during the game, or it's that I-29 will have nothing to do with this game, and there will be no it'll be never happier to go down whatever your route of choice is, Cornhusker Highway or Vine Street or
if
Capitol
you're using
Parkway.
I-29 to get to the game tomorrow, you better be coming from Kansas City or Sioux City.
Sioux City, Sioux City Huskers will be doing that. But yes, having a home game will be nice for, I think, a lot of folks, including the Lincoln business community, and especially with a night game. Guys, it was interesting before we get into just the sort of decompression, discussion, debriefing on what happened last week. It was really interesting yesterday when Matt Rule was talking about the value of night home games and just how much importance he puts specifically on home games at night. And he made some allusion to a situation last year where they had somehow a choice. He didn't quite say exactly what it was, but a choice about whether or not to have a night game, and they didn't do it because they thought they would have more rest time for the week before. And he said, I had my staff remind me never to do that again. Always go with the night games. And so he puts a lot of importance on the atmosphere at these night games.
Well, I think he's very impressed with what he's seen. You got to remember, he came from Penn State, and they didn't used to do a lot of night games, there back when he was in school. So, to experience it, and they, with the light show and everything. And this is always a good one. It seems like the home opener is always a night game. At least it has been recently. Maybe, BYU obviously wasn't, but there's been quite a few where, you get things started at night, you get the fans all, lathered up, folks, enjoying the tailgating and the whole day. And then they come into the stadium and, see the team for the first time. Well, in this case, second time, if you went down to Kansas City. Yep. So yeah, the whole thing is they've turned it into quite the show. And I think part of what Rule was trying to do yesterday too was maybe appealing, because, he doesn't get to choose when they kick off.
Right.
The television networks do.
Right.
And so
I made it sound like he had a choice last year. I didn't quite know what he was referring to.
I don't know either, but the network set the time. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit of lobbying going on there as well. Just saying, hey guys, we're great night atmosphere. It's going to be great for television.
Right.
Maybe thinking ahead to that USC game, because that one's still up in the air right now. So
yeah. Now, last year, the UTEP game was a day game. It was a 2:30 game.
It was. That's right.
But then they had Colorado at night. 2 years ago, they didn't play until week 3 at home because they went to Minneapolis and Boulder for the first 2 weeks.
That
and
was
so
goofy.
Got a night game with Northern Illinois to start, and had 2 other night games that year with one other one with Illinois. And then in 2022. First home game was North Dakota after coming back from Dublin. Yeah. I barely remember that game, if I'm being honest. That was
that was an afternoon game.
It was kind of a sandwich of news on either side of it.
Afterthought.
Fordham in 2021. Oh my goodness. Nebraska won that one 52-7. That was a day game.
I guess there hasn't been as many night games to open the season as I thought.
Yeah, I was just curious.
It felt
normally
like
they get a non-conference home game.
Yeah.
Especially if it's one of the weaker non-conference games, it adds some juice that otherwise would not be there. I mean, you worry a little bit about the 11 a.m. atmosphere for next week and Houston Christian, but that might be a touch sleepy. But Rule, it is interesting that Rule's trying to build the value of a night game at Memorial Stadium, and it's something the fans have kind of bought into because I think historically Nebraska had been pretty good at night, but for whatever reason, and more time to tailgate and more time to get to Lincoln from points elsewhere, there's a palpable difference that you can account for a night game as opposed to a 2:30 kick. Even if you control for opponent or how'd they do last week or anything like that.
Interesting. Now I'm sort of fascinated with when they're night. 2018, Nebraska did not have a home night game the entire year. Scott Frost's first year.
Oh, they tried.
No home night game. That's true.
They tried.
That's true. Okay, you're right.
By the way, is it a bad omen?
Speaking of Akron,
is it a bad omen that because I like when I'm coming in early, I didn't used to work. I used to work these hours. Now I'm used to it. I always throw in some music. Is it bad that the first song that came up was Blame It on the Rain?
Oh, no. Well, it's by the way, rain is not going to be an issue.
No.
I mean, I guess, knock on wood, you never know. What's going to be an issue is, did you bring a jacket or a sweatshirt or not? We are right now at 59 degrees in the capital city. Saturday's high. 71 degrees now. No rain in the forecast. Light wind. It should be absolutely beautiful day, but I'm going with the long sleeves today for the first time in I I don't know, since probably like May of last year. It's been a long time since I've done this. We're talking about kickoff temperatures looking like they'll be about 68 degrees. And then if you're shuffling out by about 10 p.m., we're talking about 59, about what it is right now outside.
Yeah.
So if you're wondering what to wear, go outside right now, figure out what you're comfortable in, because that'll be the end of the game, roughly on
shorts
Saturday
and a tank
night.
top. Mentally, I'm still in summer, so I'm not gonna go. I can't go long sleeves, can't go long pants yet, because then I think it's wintertime, and I don't want that.
Let's take a quick, before we look ahead too much, let's take a quick look back from last week. Nate and I have been, of course, still talking about this throughout the week. John, we haven't heard from you since the game happened. Just kind of curious your general thoughts afterward, and maybe how have they evolved, if at all, as you've talked about it, thought about it, heard from coaches and others this week.
Well, I try not to overreact to a first game, because it is a first game. It's a first impression, first time out, in several months, with actual, live action going on. But when I look at it, I try to look at it in terms of, hey, did they get the win? Pass fail, right? Take that pass fail class. They passed. Now, should they have won by more? Absolutely, they should have. I thought they controlled that game the entire way. And that's something that, this team is still going to have to work on. The whole one score narrative has kind of handicapped, or not handicapped, it's kind of hijacked the conversation at times. Matt Rule once said, you can avoid one score games by beating teams by 2 scores. That's allowed too. And I thought there was a golden opportunity there to really, throw that knockout blow. So while winning the 1 score game is nice, you get the dub. I would like to see a little more killer instinct out of this team, because they had a great chance. Cincinnati gifted them a last chance touchdown in the first half, and then got the ball to start the second half.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't have a problem with them going for it on 4th and short on that first drive of the second half. Unfortunately, didn't make the play, and the game was kind of on from there. But I want to see a little more killer instinct. If you got a chance to step on someone's throat, you've got to do it, because the difference. We watched the NFL. Well, I'm sure we all watched the NFL game last night. Another 1 score game. The difference in talent between the first team and the 32nd team in the NFL is so tight. That's why you have a lot of close games. But in college football, when you're playing teams that you should have controlled, like Cincinnati, that kind of performance isn't going to get it done against Michigan. It's not going to get it done against, Iowa or Michigan State. So, hopefully part of the evolution of this year's team is, yes, okay, so we've figured out, we can win a 1 score game, done that. Now let's turn those into 2 score, 3 score wins. Let's take advantage of situations when we have them.
Yeah.
John's talking about a killer instinct for a team. I think that's especially important in the red zone. I mean, there were 2 red zone possessions where Nebraska wasn't able to get a touchdown. And you think of the Elijah Pritchett false start that hampered that. I mean, you had 1st and goal at the 1 and you false start. And you can't do that in the Big Ten, which is why Elijah Pritchett, I think a guy who, talent-wise, quote-unquote, on paper, would be a guy that you would start over Gunnar Gatula or whomever. Gatula is starting because he doesn't false start. It's just that simple. So Nebraska's execution needs to get a little better in the red zone. You talk about the killer instinct as well as far as an offense is being concerned. And that's where it comes from, really. Is your offense able to put up the points to break the other team's will? They were able to put together drives that should have done that. They just weren't able to finish them. And the other thing is the big play. Of course, I think Cincinnati was so backed off in terms of their coverage. They were going to give Nebraska underneath completions all day, and they weren't going to get beat by a 30-yard pass, by a 40-yard pass. But, there were opportunities there, and Dana Holgerson brought this up, that the downfield blocking wasn't good enough, that, plays in space by Nebraska's offensive players weren't good enough. And those are the sort of things where you've got to take the initiative and finish off a play. So I think it's on the offense this week. I mean, there are plenty of questions about the defense. I mean, maybe the most concerning thing was the inability to stop, Sorsby's run game. But you can write some of that off as, you're not going to see much quarterback run this year. But I feel like the offense needs to take that step forward because they were efficient and they controlled. But like John said, they couldn't finish.
Yeah. Yeah. And frankly, that's one of those things that's been an issue for multiple years. You kind of go through and you have these things that keep popping up and keep being an issue in these close games. And I think that's why some of the people watching, myself included, started at some points to say, here we go again, because what happened? You got down there, you had a key penalty, right? You had a fourth down conversion when you had a chance, as John was referring to kind of put your foot on their throat. It reminded me a little bit of Wisconsin back in 2023, where Nebraska got up big early in that game, went for it on a fourth down, same thing, didn't convert, and then that things changed after that as well. Now, the difference in what happened here and what happened in so many of those other games is Nebraska did make the plays down the stretch. They did, despite some of those things cropping up, those oh no moments, here we go again moments, despite those, they still got, in my mind, two huge plays that they haven't gotten in most of these games. And that's the fourth down conversion to Dane Key, with that play action pass, which was a great play. It was executed completely, right? It reminds me of the play against Illinois where Luke Lindemeyer last year had a chance to score that touchdown and kind of have a late game touchdown that would have been as important as that one. And in previous years, they haven't made that play. They made that play. And then, of course, Malcolm Hartzog on the other end getting the interception that it seems like Nebraska is giving up in those moments all of the time. And so in some ways, Nebraska was doing some of the things that we've seen before in these close games. But on the other hand, you look at it and Nebraska did what other teams have done to them when it came to the very end of the game. And I don't think there's any way that you can or should minimize the impact and the value of now having gone through that. And if you go back to the end of last year, having gone through a close game in the bowl game and won it as well, I don't think you can minimize what's between the ears with this team. And I know that every time that the coaches talk about it, they kind of want to minimize. I don't know if that's because they want to sort of not make it a huge thing in everyone's head and not create something, but it's already there. Like it is there. You can try and talk it away. You can try and minimize it, but it is there. And they overcame it. They overcame it this time, even though everything else wasn't perfect. And you're exactly right, John. That game that they played in Kansas City last Thursday, that's not going to be a good enough game to beat most of the teams that they want to beat this year. Right. It's not.
And that's why you've got these next two games to really, settle in and hopefully, fine tune some things so that you are ready, because, it might be painful for a lot of folks, but they're taking baby steps. You're right. I mean, they closed out the bowl game last year with basically a 4-minute drive at the end of the game that in past games wouldn't have done. I thought the most impressive thing was Hartzog was the one who committed the penalty right before the interception.
He had one of those moments.
When that penalty happened, you thought, oh, okay, well, now the floodgates are open. That butt comes back. So, you're taking incremental steps. Now the next step is, we go back to the play at the 1-yard line. You still had first and goal from the 5.5.
Yeah.
And how many people in that stadium, or how many people, if you are watching at home or listening on KLIN, were like, gonna have to settle for a field goal. I mean, right away, you had 4 plays from the 5-yard line and didn't score. So you're going to make mistakes in a football game. There's no such thing as we're 30th anniversary of one of the greatest teams of all time. They made mistakes, but you know what the difference was? They had other guys that say, you know what, bro, I got you. I'm going to pick you up and we're going to make up for that mistake. And that's the next step for this team is, all right, someone's going to make a mistake, but now don't compound it by making another one or overdoing your job or, not following your assignment. Just go out there, pick up your teammate and make up for the mistake.
You talk about mistakes. What was the one mistake that Nebraska did not make on Thursday night?
Turnover.
No turnovers.
They didn't.
I mean, they tried to.
Yeah.
They tried to twice.
Very close plays, but they didn't give it away. And you think of the 2 takeaways they got, and the one set up the touchdown right before half, the Vincent Shavers fumble caused, and then the other one clinched the game. So the two quote unquote big plays that Nebraska made were utterly monstrous, and then they just didn't make the quote unquote big mistake. You like the fact that Nebraska at least is starting to eliminate a lot of aspects of losing. They're not turning the ball over. The Pritchett penalty notwithstanding on the goal line, it wasn't like there were an inordinate number of penalties. As frustrating as maybe it was that it felt like Dylan Raiola was dinking and dunking, they were still moving the ball. So they've done a fairly good job, I think, to this point of eliminating losing. And now you got to create winning, which aren't exactly the same thing, but it is sort of step one, then step two on the path.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And by the way, that dropped pick six, the fumble that Dylan had that took a nice bounce right back to him, and then he had the cat-like reflexes. It looked like, it looked like hungry hippos to me when he did that with his hand. Like I
as soon as the ball came out, I was like, turnover.
They had a great angle in the stadium on one of the replays, and I could not believe it. It's like his eyes got huge. It was right in front of him. All of a sudden, he's like, boop, like the hungry hippo, and got the white marble and ate it up. But on the other hand, we can go back and think of one of the things I used to say about Nebraska during, this period where they've lost so many close games is like every time the other team fumbles, it bounces out of bounds, right? Every time. How many times has the other team given Nebraska an opportunity, especially or a dropped interception? It feels like there's been tons of those too over the years, and Nebraska got those this time. And everyone's correct. Like John was correct. I'll say it again. Everyone's correct that this game, the way they played, still is not going to be good enough. But on the other hand, John was also right, and he said it's the first game. It's the first game, and there's not one season where you can take everything that happened into the first game and just Control-C, Control-V it to the rest of the year, copy and paste it the entire rest of the year. It always changes. It always changes. It is never the rule. And will other problems come up? Absolutely. But will they be the same issues? Will it be something where it's just there's not big plays? No. I mean, those will be there at some point. And so I can't get myself sort of in this panic mode that I heard some fans in already because of whatever problems existed. And then real quick before we go to break, there were also and so I would say that is definitely the offense is going to have to be able to finish inside the 10, the 20, the 10 for sure. I think that's a huge one. Yes, they're going to have some explosive plays. They are going to, they're going to, and the defense is going to have front seven that's going to create more havoc in the backfield. That's something John talked about last week, and that wasn't there the way that you wanted to be. Now, all that said, I also saw a few things I liked. To me, I think I'm excited about this offense more so than I was, because I think in terms of the skill positions, in terms of the variety of options, this is a much better situation than last year was for Dylan Raiola. I was really impressed with Isaiah Hunter.
Yes.
And it was just a few plays, but his ability to go up and get the ball is really promising. That touchdown was a great play. The other one where he kind of, did the phantom push that you need to be able to do as a wide receiver and get that ball. Danke, I think he didn't have a ton, but when I did see from him, I was excited about him. We kind of knew about what he was able to do. And then I would add Luke Lindenmeyer, the kind of tight end that he is. And yes, they had Fedoni last year and they used him quite a bit, but Lindenmeyer, he's kind of that profile of an Iowa tight end that it seems like Iowa always has and becomes such a weapon for them. He looked that part to me. And so those are a couple of the reasons I was excited. And then the other side of the ball for me, that defensive backfield, we talked about them all year as kind of, hey, these are veterans. We know who they are. They're not necessarily first team all conference players, but they're steady. They're leaders, those things. They had a great game. I mean, they shut down that passing game and they made the play to win the game. And so my hat's off to really that entire secondaries, both the veterans and then some of the new guys as well, new transfer, new redshirt freshmen that was in there. Everybody back there had their, they weren't perfect games, but they really had their moments, I thought, in that game. And especially, and one person who isn't getting any kudos on this whole thing is Sierra Wright.
Yeah.
And Sierra Wright, the reason nobody is because I at one point turned to my son in the stands and I was like, Johnny, is Sierra Wright playing? And he was like, yeah, he's been out there every play. They've never thrown his way. They have never thrown his way the entire game.
Cincinnati treated him like Deion Sanders. I mean, they just would not. I mean, that was the side of the field that was completely cut off. And that is that. I mean, if that's the reputation that he has, I mean, imagine what the possibilities are when you can literally cut off half the field and say, or a quarter of the field, a half of the field, and say, nope, this side's not for rent. You can do so much more. And that was huge. I mean, to hold a college football team in this day and age to 69 yards passing is almost impossible. And it's not like they were going up. I mean, Sorsby last year averaged like 250 yards passing a game.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they had new receivers and those guys were a non-factor. And the crazy thing is, and you mentioned the havoc a moment ago, this was the first time Nebraska has won a game where they only had 2 tackles for loss and 1 quarterback pressure.
Yeah.
And no sacks.
Right.
There was no pressure on the quarterback.
So they didn't
yet
help.
They still did not complete many passes downfield.
Yeah.
Right. You talked about the wide receivers, and remember all of that with Ja'Cory Barney limited due to injury. I mean, he played through it, but he wasn't 100%. Matt Rule admitted as much yesterday. But I feel so much better about Nebraska's ability to take care of the big play question and the red zone question because of what I saw from Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter.
Yeah.
I think those
and
guys,
Lindenmeyer.
and Lindenmeyer. You've got options there. This is not the situation that it was last year where you went Nair can't beat
or several
man
years. I mean, how many years they didn't have a wide receiver.
Both of the transfer receivers. I mean, this has been a spot. It's been very hit or miss.
Yep.
Right.
Sure.
The Trey Palmer's paid off, but
other 2 guys last year didn't.
But they didn't. 110 yards combined receiving and both of the touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need to have 100-yard receiving games to have an impact. And I thought both of those guys, and I agree with you, and Isaiah Hunter was tremendous. I was really impressed. That's what you need, just on a consistent basis. And then if you can get more production out of the tight ends, some of the young receivers, Quinn Clark getting into the game. And that's why these next 2 games are going to be really interesting because it's a chance to get some of these guys even more reps because they're going to be needed at some point this year. And to be able to distribute the ball as Dylan was able to do to a variety of different targets, I agree with you. The talent around Dylan seems to be more complete this year. Yes, need more depth at running back, but again, that's something you hopefully can work on here these next 2 games.
And that'll be the spotlight on this next game. All right, let's take a break right now. We'll hear what the coaches and players had to say this week as Nate was there capturing it all, and we'll set up some discussion with that. Coming up next is a Friday Husker Tailgate. Kevin Suits will join us here in a little bit as well. We'll have our helmet stickers at 7:10, opposition disposition, give the picks out. Hey, we got a Fantasy Huskers keyword coming up too.
Ooh, yes.
You're listening to the Friday Husker Tailgate on KLIN.
When you're Welcome back to the Friday Husker Tailgate. But first, your Fantasy Huskers keyword, presented by Nebraska Sign Company. From Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1400.
Yes, game day advice has been coming in hot and heavy over the week from the University of Nebraska, from the State Patrol, from the city of Lincoln, from everyone, reminding people how to get there, where to park, what time, what kind of bag they can bring in the stadium, and now they can go to the Hawks Championship Center beforehand, and they'll have Maddie and Tay performing there. Is this a big country act?
Apparently they've opened for some big acts, so yeah.
Opened for some big acts, so kind of.
Hey, it's a free concert, people. Enjoy. Don't look the gift horse in the mouth.
And so it's been a while since the old Husker Nation Pavilion back in the day, but they will perform the concert performance begin shortly after the football team arrives from the Legacy Walk. They're a CMA Vocal Duel of the Year nominee, so they must be pretty good. I mean, being up there with probably like Brooks and Dunn and that kind of stuff. So,
Boxcar Willie?
No, but they're going to have Husker Vision will provide fans on attendance live coverage of the Husker Legacy Walk. They'll have the Husker Spirit Squad, Herbie and Lil Red making special appearances, kids activity, an abbreviated combine with a timed 40-yard dash. So get your kids' NIL value up early, which is always what you like to do.
Face painting for the kids?
Let's see.
Will it slow
Yes,
down
face painting, inflatables, painting, balloon artists.
Ding.
In addition to selling alcohol, Aramark will provide a variety of food options. Finally, we can get our kids. Where was this when we were parents of young kids, John?
Well, we were sneaking it in, and that's what we were doing.
So, because Bud Light is a title sponsor of this family event, and so $5 for branded Bud Light 12-ounce cans at the kickoff event.
Oh,
so you can get your slightly cheaper, still overpriced, but slightly cheeper beers there.
Correct.
Yes.
Before you get really overpriced beers within the stadium. All right, there you go. So that's what's going on. Clear bag policy needs to be followed for that, those sorts of things. But you don't have to have a ticket to the game. I guess you can just go hang out there and go home or stand
be around
out the
atmosphere, and then when you walk back,
nice.
Go catch someone's tailgate and watch the rest of the game.
There you go. All right, Nate. What do we hear this week from the herd talk today?
Well, yeah, let's start with the head football coach, and so much of the talk has been reaction.
Real quick, Nate, I forgot to give a fantasy Huskers keyword. Thank you.
Yeah,
sorry, I got to do that. I heard Mariah, and then I didn't do anything with it. Today is, and you can see up on your screen if you're watching. The question is, when will the first touchdown of the game be scored? And you've got a variety of guesses, all of them so far in the first quarter. The earliest is now at 13 minutes. That was from Gryffindor Steph. The latest is first quarter 2:22. Vintage Heights Heidi guess that. So we have two more guesses coming. One of them will be awarded today. You just got to text in that keyword, and the keyword is one of the more famous Akronites,
Akrononians,
Mr. James LeBron, Lebron. Lebron is your keyword. I now don't know if he's coming to the game.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's gotten an invite. He should have.
Well,
why wouldn't
from
he?
Akron?
Yeah,
well, two different ways. I mean, you've got his hometown school playing his movie son.
That's kind of true.
Yeah,
he's probably not doing anything.
There's nothing going on. He doesn't really need to stay in shape anymore. I mean, he's a man. He's 40 plus. So LeBron,
he's 40 exactly.
How about we get Taylor? We get LeBron there. We got Taylor there one week. Get LeBron the next week.
Right.
It's the who's who.
Yeah,
if he's there,
the glitterati of the world descending on Nebraska football.
Let's make the invite to LeBron. It does make a lot of. Isn't it talk little Fred Hoiberg, right?
Sure.
I don't know if they ever crossed over in the league. They probably did. I'm gonna guess they had to play each other
Fred's
at some
last
point.
season.
Because LeBron started in 02, I believe.
03.
Yep. Fred was on that T-Wolves team about that time that was good, that went to the playoffs.
So they probably
right?
crossed over.
And I'm going to.
Yes. For 3 years, they were in the league together.
So, I mean, obviously, Fred and LeBron had a huge rivalry between the two of them in the
throw out
NBA.
the record
Those two,
when
I
the
mean, it's
Cavs
Bird,
and the
Magic,
T-Wolves.
LeBron, Fred Hoiberg. I would say 1, 2, in some order, in terms of the best one-on-one rivalries. And so we obviously want to do that. So I expect he'll be there on Saturday. Probably
Be on the lookout.
All right, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So, we haven't said a whole lot about Akron. And, it's because they're not a very high-profile opponent. But Matt Rule talked about the Zips yesterday, and specifically offensive side of the ball, led by their head coach, Joe Moorhead.
Well, it's as creative an offense as you'll ever see. I think Joe's one of the best offensive play callers and coordinators in football. You go back to his time at Penn State, he really got that program up and running. We did it when he did it at UConn, when he did it when he did it at Fordham. He's really creative. So they utilize a 2-quarterback system. They look to the sideline / use the headset at a high level, see what you're in, try to attack it. Ton of skill. The Patrick kid played really well last week and then left the game. I have no idea if he's available or not, but he's an excellent player. They'll use both Finley and Johnson at quarterback. They can run the football. So they have a bunch of dynamic stuff, and it's they're running 3-level passing concepts with run plays and speed sweeps with corner routes. I mean, the level of discipline. They have every pick known to mankind. So if you want to play man, they're going to pick you, and legally, but pick you behind the line of scrimmage. So it's just a ton of really hard stuff.
So some challenges presented by Akron. I don't think the talent scares anybody, but the scheme, fairly complex, fairly challenging. You heard the idea that it was more or less a high school offense from Cincinnati, drop back, send guys out to pass, and then Brendan Sorsby would go and run. That's not going to be the case with these guys. But at least in terms of the scheme, they'll be presented some things to deal with, especially in the defensive backfield.
Joe Moorhead, I was looking at this. Did he get a raw deal at Mississippi State? He got 2 years there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what his record is in his first year at Mississippi State was?
Didn't they go like 8-4?
8-5.
Okay.
Fourth in the Western, went to the Outback Bowl, ended up ranked 25th in the nation. Year 2, he was 6-6, ends up beating Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl,
right,
which supposedly kept his job, and then went on to the Music City Bowl that year and lost to at that point Louisville under Scott Satterfield. Oddly enough, the matchup of the two coaches Nebraska opened the season with, and they fired him. And Mississippi State has gone to crap since then, for the most part, because Moorhead replaced Dan Mullen, and things were going well with him, and it just hasn't been good at Mississippi State since then.
You're skipping a step.
Yes,
because after Moorhead, they got Mike Leach. So you wonder if there were some subterranean rumblings.
I kind of forgot Mike Leach was there.
I did too. But that's so. I mean, obviously they went for an offensive mind like Leach, but you're right. Moorhead, probably if he would given more of a chance. Mississippi State, that's maybe next to Vanderbilt the worst job in the SEC.
Right.
I mean, that is hard. It is hard to win at Mississippi State. You're second fiddle in your own state, and that state hasn't been, at the top of the forefront of the SEC for many, many years. So, now he's at Akron, but unfortunately he's only 8-28, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's not been a good run here over the last 4.
That's right. So it was Leach, and then Leach, of course, passed away, and Zach Arnett has taken over, and then now Jeff Lebby is there. So they've had a lot of turnover. But yeah, Dan Mullen was there for 8 years, and Moorhead seemed to do fairly well. They maybe wish, I don't know. Yeah, they got Leach, so maybe that was what they wanted after that whole thing. But nonetheless, just agreeing with Matt Rule is, I mean, the coach doesn't necessarily match the program here in this situation. I can't believe he's still there, to be honest, in a lot of ways.
Well, and Akron's only had one winning season in the last 20.
Yeah.
So this is a program that has been, I mean, way, way down for a long time. And so, for them just to get any kind of a win would be enormous. And that's why they're a huge underdog this week.
He's got as good of a resume as any coach in the MAC.
Sure.
To be honest.
And you look at his offensive coordinator stints. I mean, he was really good for Penn State for 2 years, and he was really good at Oregon. Yep. So it just feels I agree with the idea that Mississippi State hit the eject button on him a little quick. Like I said, I wonder if they had an inkling that they could get Leach but he's a good offensive mind. I don't know how much he's got to play with at Akron, but you feel like he'll maximize it and do his best.
I legit can't believe they've kept him there, to be honest. It's not going to last, I don't think.
No, I mean, somebody will hire it, regardless of what they do this season. Somebody's going to hire him as an offensive coordinator and throw a lot of money at him to do it.
Yeah.
And at that point, especially as rough as it's been at Akron, maybe if somebody throws a line in the water his way after this year, he might well bite.
All right, what else we got?
Well, Matt Rule was asked about Ja'Cory Barney's health. We saw Barney early in the game get tackled, didn't look very good. Ja'Cory played the rest of the game. It wasn't 100%. There was a little question about Ja'Cory Barney playing, but as Matt Rule said, Ja'Cory answered that pretty quickly.
We'll have to see where Ja'Cory's at. He's been limited this week. He'll play in the game. Just what the volume of his role will be. To be quite honest, I didn't even know he was hurt until the end of the game. That's how much of a warrior that kid is. I came in on Sunday and they're like, he's questionable for next week. I said, yeah, he'll practice Tuesday. No, he won't practice. He practiced Tuesday. He's just he practiced really well yesterday. He's just an infectious. He and Shavers changed the whole practice yesterday. Like their intensity and their commitment to just showing up at practice and loving the game is so infectious that we feel it when Ja'Cory is not out there.
And Rule has highlighted that, underlined that concept of love of the game so often. Guys coming in and not just enjoying being football players and that which comes with it, which is considerable, especially now, but actually loving going out and doing the work. And Barney is certainly one of those guys. I think that was pretty evident even in the open practice that was open with 1890 at the beginning of camp. I mean, this is a guy that's bouncing around with a ton of energy all the time. And that makes a difference in the grind of football season, even and especially a week like this where maybe the opponent doesn't grab you.
Yeah. And guys, isn't it interesting? We all kind of agreed, hey, they've got more places they can go with skill players this year coming out of that Cincinnati game. At least that was our takeaway. And Ja'Cory Barney he had 5 catches for 27 yards. He had one play he almost broke, but I came away feeling like, and I didn't know he was injured, and so that might explain a little bit of it, but I came away feeling like you've got to figure out how to use him as more of a weapon. Yeah. You've got to figure out how to get him in space or something.
Yeah, you need home run hitters. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think you really have any home run hitters at the running back position. You need somebody who can take a 5-yard catch and turn it into a 20-yard catch or 25. Yeah. He is that guy. Yep. Now, if he's dealing with a little ankle here right now, if they do play him, I hope it's not a lot. Sure. Get him healthy because there are more important things down the road for him. But for a team that is desperate for some big plays, he is one guy that can produce them.
Yeah, especially once you get him the ball in space. And maybe that was part of why he was, why 5 catches for 27 yards. I mean, he wasn't 100%. He was limited. Yeah. That tackle messed him up.
I thought it was going to be a lot worse than it was.
Sure.
It looked awful.
I mean, as bad as the Janiron, it was pretty clear the Janiron Bonner injury that happened. When it happened to Janiron, the sirens went off and you went, okay, that's bad news. You weren't that far from it with Ja'Cory, but like Rule said, he stayed out there. He just wasn't able to play a whole lot.
Yeah. All right. What else? Give me 1 or 2 more here, Nate.
Sure. Matt Rule, you look again at the opponent, Akron, and maybe the tendency would be to slough off, but Matt Rule trying to emphasize play the man, not the brand. Don't play the helmet sticker. Actually play the guy you're playing against this week.
I think the message for me always was like, hey, we're competitors. We're going in to compete. Let's go compete. Let's take our shots, and we have nothing to lose. And on this end, we don't ever want to play the brand. We want to play the man. That's kind of always our message. Like, and that's whether we're playing Ohio State or whether we're playing, Kent State. And we want to play the guy lined up in front of us and play to a standard that, we're trying to attack that man. And so that was something that we were not great at last year. We played Ohio State to one level. We played other games to a different level.
So it's about consistency of effort. And like he said, he later brought up the difference between the locker room and the Ohio State game where they were down one score and everybody was fired up. And then the UCLA game where they were down one score and it was a funeral.
Yep.
And that's key to building a program. Look, there's a little extra juice for Ohio State. There's a little extra juice for Michigan. But you're going to drop games, and the UCLA game's jumping out here as one where if Nebraska brings it against them the way they brought it against Ohio State, they will win that game.
Yeah.
But they just didn't bring the same level of effort. Thus, they especially in a realm where every game is so close and everything is decided by a play here or a play there, that difference in mindset can be the difference between beating a UCLA and getting to 7 wins, 8 wins, what have you, and not.
Yeah. No. I completely agree.
Why was it all those years that Tom never lost a game that they shouldn't have, except for one, Iowa State? It's the only one that they lost to a team that finished the year with a losing record. It's because they were the standard. It wasn't, Alabama's the standard or Florida State's the standard. We are the standard. We have to play to that. And, you got that consistent effort week in and week out.
I think it's happened a lot with this team, frankly. You even point to Northern Iowa last year. I know they won that 34-3, but it looked a little sleepy.
Mm-hmm.
Rutgers last year, same thing to some degree. It's happened. It has been something where they've kind of, they've had to bring their own energy for these games, and they haven't always done it. And so we'll see. I think it will help that it's a night game. I think it'll help that it's the first home game.
Yep.
I think this one won't be as hard as some of like that UCLA game is the perfect example, though.
Sure.
That is the perfect example where it feels like you lost that game because you weren't mentally ready for that game.
Right.
And you were not, and the crowd wasn't, no one was excited to be there that day. It felt like
which is
coming off that Ohio State game. So
which is super frustrating because the Ohio State game, of course, showed your ceiling and showed where you could be every week. And, it's hard to be at that level every week, but you can be close.
Yeah. I think that's a very significant point there. All right. Why don't we grab our break right now? Make sure we got a couple of minutes on the other end to get you fully updated on all the injuries and other items coming into this game. It's a Friday Husker Tailgate. I'm Jack Mitchell with John Bishop and Nate Rohr. If you're listening to us, awesome. Keep doing that. You can also check out our video and watch us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter for KLIN, or you can jump on my Twitter page too if you want to do it there. 57 degrees in the capital city on KLIN.
When you're thinking Huskers,
Swings and hammers this one. Deep left field. It is gone.
think 1499.3 KLIN. to the Friday Husker Tailgate on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
All right, you talked about the Ja'Cory Barney injury. We like to do a quick sort of Thursday to Friday news update because we usually find a little bit about some health issues. Then, Nate, of course, you talked about Janiron Bonner. He is going to be out for the year for Nebraska. And I think the thing about him that's particularly hard is while he may not have huge statistical numbers, it sounds like what Rule was talking about, the difficulty of replacing him is that he fills so many roles.
Yeah, and he's in one guy, you've got a wide receiver, essentially a lead blocker, sort of an H-back tight end guy, and you also have somebody you can give the ball to on the goal line. And now, instead of having that one guy to where the defense doesn't know what you're going to do, what you're doing there, you're going to have essentially three guys, or that's how you presume that role will be filled. Keelan Smith was moved up in the depth chart to fill Bonner's spot, but in actuality, I think, there will be a few guys in there to try and essentially fill Janiron Bonner's spot.
Other injury and add any that you've got, but the only other thing that I thought might be notable is actually coming back from an injury, and it does sound like we'll see Quentin Ives. He's been battling some injuries throughout this fall. There were big expectations, I think, for him kind of grabbing that backup running back spot behind Emmett Johnson, and just was battling injuries throughout the fall. And he's interesting because he's kind of the different one in terms of running backs, in terms of size, at least.
Yeah, he would factor in, and there was no definition given in terms of who the number 2 running back really will be for Nebraska moving forward out of that game. And so that buys some time for Quentin Ives to get up to speed in this race.
I think it'll be him. I think eventually that's going to be
all said and done. Yeah.
Problem is those hamstrings are hard to come back from because it's lingering, and are you running with confidence yet?
That's
so
true.
You've got these next 2 games to maybe get him up and running, because certainly in terms of experience, he's the next guy in line. But if that hamstring is still bothering him, or if he's not running with confidence, then it's going to affect him.
All right, we got the helmet stickers coming up next. 57 degrees. Stick around. It's Friday Husker Tailgate.
When you're thinking Huskers,
for 3 to tie the game right, will you? Betcha! Are you kidding me?
think 1499.3 KLIN.
Raiola takes a snap, fade route, back run to the end zone. Touchdown, Huskers! Isaiah Hunter for the Husker touchdown.
Who do you think you're fooling? Nobody's thinking about their job the day before a Husker game.
Pedals the throw, blitz picked up. Harris went out deep right sideline. 50-50 ball. It's picked off. The black shirts with the dagger. Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick. Sails the night for the Big Red. Drifts back to throw, dumps it to an underneath crosser. Goody made the catch, got popped. Ball's loose, but they say incomplete.
This is the Friday Husker Tailgate with Jack Mitchell, Nate Rohr, John Bishop, and Kevin Suits on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Yes, there. How about the highlight package from Kyle Crooks?
Oh, new guy.
Shout out to Steve Hardesty for putting that together for us. We had Kyle Crooks on the show yesterday to talk about his debut. And so we have Kyle on the show every Thursday at 8:35. If you're just joining us for the first time, maybe on the video stream that we've got going on the KLIN Facebook and YouTube and Twitter pages and my Twitter and Facebook page. Join us all week that we have got Husker guests at 8:35. Monday, we talked to Mike Schaefer at 8:35. Tuesday, we talked to John Baylor. The Jack Attack. Here we go. Call the lucky you. And then Wednesday, we got Caleb Henry from Husker Max. Thursday, we have Kyle Crooks. And then, of course, Friday, we blow it out here for the Tailgate show. So join us then. And then maybe a shout out here, too. Fridays, we're trying something new on Friday afternoons for Drive Time Lincoln. This is a first time deal.
Tell me more.
John Bishop cannot get enough of doing radio with me after, not doing a lot over the last several years. It's been 13 years since he and I had the show together. And so we're not only hanging out in the morning, but second half of Drive Time Lincoln on Friday nights during the football season, when there's a show on Drive Time Lincoln, we are going to do an all-star supercast. Is this what we're calling it? I don't know what the right
Super
word
Friends.
is. The Super Friends will join together. We will,
but no Akron man.
We will for the first time in a lot of years, because this used to be what the Friday Husker Tailgate was, but we will. The technology has progressed since then, but we will be live. Both on 1499.3 KLIN and on 1620 The Zone from about 5:30-ish to about 6 o'clock-ish. And we'll have Unsportsmanlike Conduct, which is John's show, and Drive Time Lincoln all has one big show. And so normally it'll be you and your co-host, Josh Peterson, along with me here in Lincoln, and Steve Hardesty is here too. Today, I believe it's Michael Severe, though.
Yeah, Josh is going to Northwestern. He can't get enough bad football, so he's going to go to Northwestern today.
Did you hear they have a lake stadium there?
They do.
Yeah, they do. You can actually see the lake. I don't know if you know this, you guys. You can see the lake from the practice facility there.
By the way, congrats Northwestern on that great game the other day against Tulane.
Yes.
It's going to be a long year for the Purple Cats.
So, and shout out Michael Severe. He made a comment here on the live stream as well. I'll put it up here just for a second. We were talking earlier. There's Michael. He said maybe Cincinnati is a good team. We were talking earlier about Nebraska's performance, and that very well could be. It will be interesting to see what Cincinnati does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
The rest of I don't know what to make of Sorsby. I really don't. And I think their defense has some guys. The wide receivers got shut down by Nebraska. If they can have a bigger contribution, they might be pretty solid too. But I can't tell what to make of Sorsby. He could be going really either direction in terms of who he is, and the team will go as he goes. I think.
I think it'll be real interesting to see how he does, especially in the passing game, because of how Nebraska shut him down. But they've got Bowling Green this week and Northwestern State. Game to watch for them is in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, because there's an idle week. They're going to be at Kansas in week 5, and that might give us a real good indication of if Cincinnati can be an upper division team in the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, you look at this, and then they have Iowa State at home the next week, but then they've got some, UCF, no offense, it could be a winnable game. Oklahoma State. I said no offense. Baylor.
The term you were looking for there, Jack, was with all due respect.
With all due respect. And I did say, or at least implied, that I was saying that with all due respect. All right, it's time for the helmet stickers. We have not awarded any helmet stickers yet this year. We did do our helmet sticker draft. If you missed it last week, we do essentially a fantasy draft for helmet stickers. I guess I should go back and explain what are helmet stickers. Well, you know how they're used for schools like Ohio State, Florida State. They get stickers to put on their helmet when they achieve some kind of school-defined objective. And so we also give out virtual helmet stickers, essentially, and we do them on a criteria that's really not defined. Everybody gets to define their own reason for giving out helmet stickers. So we each get 3 every week to give out. And last week we did a fantasy draft, kind of predicting the real reason we do that is because it sort of displays how much our perception of who the stars of the team are going to be at the beginning of the year and how much that changes, if it changes that much, by the end of the year. And so we did our picks. Our teams are as follows. Nate got Raiola, Watson Trent, Key, Nwaneri, and Desan McCullough. I got Ja'Cory Barney, Sierra Wright, Wilson, Harburg, and Riley Van Poppel. And John got Emmett Johnson, Javen Wright, Isaiah Hunter, Buford. And then we allowed him to make a special pick with his final pick, Uncle Don's boys, or what, I'm not sure what we call. I just wrote down Uncle Don. And then Kenny texted me. He was like, what is this? Is this a joke? What's going on? John was allowed to take the entire offensive line. Is essentially
Uncle Don's boys.
Uncle Don's boys. So
right.
I will make that correction. So those are what we picked. Just kind of a friendly thing. All right, so let's go through and let's award some helmet stickers. And Nate, since you had the first pick in the draft, you can award the first helmet sticker today. Who gets the first helmet sticker of the year 2025?
Well, you've got to give it to the guy who is the centerpiece of an offense that really controlled the game. 25 carries, 108 yards, 7 catches for 27 yards. Most catches, obviously, the most rushing yards. Emmett Johnson was the reason the offense was able to move, and he looked really good. I mean, he was gaining yards after contact. He was elusive. He was his usual reliable self, where seemingly every carry went for between 4 to 6 yards. You know, he's not the big home run hitter, but boy, he'll get you a lot of singles.
Yeah, one of the things you guys might remember, I think we were talking in the morning drive last week, and we were like, well, what are some things that if you see in this game, you know it's going to mean it's a big success for Nebraska. And one of the things I said, if Emmett Johnson could run for 100 yards for the first time. And it's interesting because he did, but you still didn't go away from the game feeling like, wow, the Nebraska running game was just great. First of all, because he provided basically all of the running yards.
Correct.
There was no other real running yards from anyone during the game. And then number 2, it was a very Emmett Johnson-y 100 yards, which is exactly how Nate described. Really solid, high effort runs, battling for extra yards, looking very, looking good, but just no big plays. And it's the same thing that's been his career. Like,
sure.
No, and I say big, 20 plus. I don't know what his longest was, 12, 16
yards.
So it's just crazily how consistent that has been with him over the years. But again, he looked good. It's interesting, though, all the coaches this week were kind of like, yeah, we can't. And how many receptions did he have in that game?
7.
Holy
leading
cow.
receiver as well.
32 touches.
So, I mean, that's just something that's not sustainable for an entire season. So that's why that backup running back room is so important, to develop somebody back there so that he can get some breaks now and then. But you're right. They could not afford to take him off the field because his presence alone, Cincinnati had to account for him. So absolutely easy helmet sticker. I mean, when your offensive coordinator says he's a player of the game, I'm going to take his word for it.
All right. So you giving him one too?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. I do not have Emmett.
Wow.
What?
I asked for him to get 100 yards. He gets 100 yards, and then I don't even give him a helmet sticker for it. By the way, these are Emmett Johnson's first 2 helmet stickers of the year. I like to do this like when someone wins an Oscar. It's like, this is the 3rd nomination for an Oscar and the first win.
You should have. Now, you weren't in the press box, but you should have gotten the press box announcer to do that for you. I have never heard a guy in a press box. We've got
Bill Bryant,
Fox's son, who does a great job, but he's got a very distinctive voice. The guy in the Arrowhead press box sounded like the guy making the announcements in the airport.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, the green shuttles are for going to and from Terminal 1.
It was great. when they played, because normally there's an announcement, hey, this is a working press box, no cheering, no clapping, no table pounding, whatever. But anyhow, when he made that announcement, I was like, geez, they brought in a professional voice guy to do that. And then he did the whole game. And it was mind blowing. One other thought on Emmett Johnson. Okay. 32 touches. And I think he had 10 targets. So essentially they tried to get him the ball 30 against Cincinnati.
That's crazy.
Does he get 35 touches the next 2 weeks?
No, God, no.
I hope. No. 35 touches combined over the 2 games.
No, I know what you're saying, and I'm hoping it's
not.
I'm hoping it's 12.
12 for both games combined.
I would love it. Yeah,
I don't think that's realistic.
That's not realistic. But
I bet it's around 25 to 30 in the next 2 games combined.
He might get to 35 over 2 games, but. Yeah, I think the next 2 games are open auditions for the second running back.
Once he scores a touchdown in either game, hit the showers.
Right. Well, first you got to stop the game and give him a ball. It's like, finally.
Yes. I hope they're going to have a ceremony for either a run over 30 yards or a touchdown. But because he is the weirdest player to talk about, because it's like you want to say, man, I appreciate how he runs. Mm-hmm. I appreciate his consistency. He looks better than Nebraska's had at running back for a long time, but it's not quite the full package yet for whatever reason.
Are we still messed up on the running backs we've had historically in this program, or even the Roy Helu, Rex Burkhead, Amir Abdullah generation?
That's kind of a cutoff.
Backs.
I always think of that as a cutoff.
After that, it's been very
pedestrian. Very pedestrian.
After Amir,
for whatever reason, I mean, Emmett goes weirdly unappreciated. Damn it, we're gonna appreciate
because again, weirdly unappreciated. How about incompetently unappreciated? I mean, man, we can get him a helmet sticker.
But listen, but part of the reason too, why has it been? He hasn't gotten enough carries for 2 years.
No,
that
true.
Doesn't look like it's going to be the problem this year.
Well, we made up for it in one game.
Yep. I mean, seriously, he probably had as many. He probably had 20% of the touches that he had last year.
His usage rate was 44%. To put it into perspective, usage rate is anytime basically when you touch the ball. So the quarterback's always number one on the team. So Dylan was number one on the team, but the fact that Emmett was at a 44% usage rate, that's awful high.
I want to see if I can pull it up. I know we got to move on, but I want to see what his attempts were. So we had 25 attempts this year, 25 attempts in the last game. 2 years ago, his redshirt freshman year, his true freshman, or I guess it's his freshman year, he had 90 attempts. So he had more than like 30% of the total attempts he had that year.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. He had 117 last year.
Right.
He had 15% in this game of his attempts last year.
But remember, Dana Holgerson changed how he was used.
Yes. Yep. And his average was actually 4.3. So it was actually down from his career average and his average from each of the last 2 years as well. And despite he had a lot of good, 8 to 12 yard runs, it felt like in there. Mm-hmm. There were a bunch too where he was just stacked up right away too. Where sometimes the hole was there, sometimes it wasn't. And then the only thing, sorry, I won't talk about him forever. I didn't even give him a helmet sticker. The one thing I saw about him though, there were a few times I wish he had a little Dante Dowdell in him a couple of times, because he would see a hole, the line opened up some holes. Mm-hmm. He would do a little dancing, right? Instead of
happy feet.
And it wasn't, these were not going to be 80-yard runs, but they could have been 4-yard runs, and they were 2-yard runs, I think, in a lot of those cases. All right, my first helmet sticker. The first one I thought of was the man of the hour after it was all over, and that's Malcolm Hartzog. It's not only about that series, although that series where he got that penalty and recovered immediately, which is just the quintessential description of what getting that one score win looked like, and overcoming the bleep moment, as I've called it for so long. And he embodied that in this game, one play after the other. It was a great coverage call. You can kind of see where I was sitting, you could see what Sorsby saw because they had not. It looked like Sierra Wright had gotten beat, which he hadn't all night, and I'm sure his eyes got huge. He's like, "Wow, I got this." He didn't put it very far outside, but Hartzog made a better play on that ball than I even realized when I saw it in real time after I saw the replays. And so I thought he had a great game. In some ways, this is kind of for the entirety of the defensive backfield. I just thought all of them played really, really well. They really suffocated that passing game for the most part during the game. Some good tackles, too. Singleton had a couple of plays. I thought there were some really good tackles, but Hartzog ends up and gets it. So this is Malcolm Hartzog's first helmet sticker this year. He had 4 of them in 2024. I don't know if that's true. I just made that up, but I don't have it up. All right, so there you go. Next, Nate.
I don't get a helmet sticker.
Oh, sorry, did I skip you?
Yes.
I thought you gave one to Emmett, so I counted Emmett. Okay,
all right, fine.
I counted Emmett.
No, go ahead.
Go back.
No,
around.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Nate.
Okay.
No, go ahead, please.
So I'll stay on the offensive side.
You got
of the,
one.
Yeah, I'll stay on the offensive side of the ball, and I'm not. Maybe my expectations were a little low for Isaiah Hunter coming into the year. I thought he'd be a solid receiver, but man, there were 2 big-time catches where he flat out just beat the man that was on him. The guy was in coverage, 50-50 ball, he wins it. And that was sorely lacking from this offense last year. So, and one of those was a touchdown. And if this team is going to finish better in the red zone, it's because they're a better offense. It's because you win those 50-50 balls. So I'm going to go to Isaiah Hunter and his Husker debut. He gets a helmet sticker, really important part of the offense. Ended up with 6 catches, 65 yards, most receiving yards on the team.
You can add one. I'll put one in for me.
And I will put
all
one
3.
in too.
So he sweeps it. I'll just add to what you said. I think there were just 2 plays in particular where that looked like an NFL receiver.
Sure.
The way he made those plays. Especially the touchdown. I mean, that was a great play. It was a good throw by Dylan too, but it was a great catch, and it was just exciting because he's sort of been the undercard to Dane Key and to some degree to Ja'Cory Barney, and he's a transfer that isn't getting as much attention. But man, he looked like a weapon out there, especially in some real certain situations where it's just, hey, going up and getting it and having the ball skills there.
Well, I mean, when you said it, I mean, there were 2 pro-like catches. You throw a fade back to the back corner of the end zone, you go up and you outhand him for the ball. I mean, really strong hands there on that play. And then you mentioned the one earlier on the little fade pattern down the near sideline.
Mm-hmm.
You get that little bit of separation, which every receiver does, and you go up and you high point the ball and you make the play. For a game where Nebraska just did not have many opportunities to take deep shots, when you do have those opportunities, you've got to be able to trust the receiver and put the ball in the right place. It wasn't going to be a play where he was going to beat the man deep and get 6, but you put it up there and you say, go make a play. And Isaiah Hunter made a play. 65 yards receiving, easy helmet sticker for me.
Yeah. Yep. I was incredibly impressed by him. And to your point, Josh or John, I hope he's getting those deep balls. I mean, I hope those will be there eventually for him because he looks like he's got the ability to go up and win some of those battles. All right, Nate, your final helmet sticker.
Maybe going a little off the beaten path here, but I'm going to go to Sean Singleton. He did lead him in tackles, somewhat as a representative for the whole defensive backfield for the job he did. But, he had 7 tackles despite the fact that they didn't complete many passes. And he had a tackle for loss, and the havoc was sorely lacking from this defense on Thursday night. So the fact that he was able to make such a big impact despite the fact that they weren't able to complete many passes, I'll go Deshaun Singleton.
This is Deshaun Singleton's first helmet sticker this year. He acquired. I really need to go back and get the historical one so I can do that and have the orchestral music playing. All right, Deshaun Singleton. That's a good one. I mentioned him too, and mine was kind of the same way, so I echo what you said there. All right, John, your last one.
It's not often you pick a guy who, if you look at the stats, his name isn't there. It's not there.
Oh,
he didn't make a tackle. He didn't have a pass breakup because they didn't throw to his side of the field. When you can erase half the field by yourself and intimidate a team to not even throw it your way, Sierra Wright gets my helmet sticker.
I like that.
There you go. Congratulations to LeBron's son. Yeah, to the point that one time during the game, I literally had to ask my son if he had noticed if he had gotten injured.
Is he there? Is he out there?
Is he even playing today? What's going on here with this? And yeah, that's the problem with being a cornerback, I guess. You have a great game, and you got idiots like me in the stands like, is that guy even playing? What's his deal? So
Lord, wasn't he?
Yeah. There it is. So 3 defensive backs get helmet stickers between Hartzog, Wright, Singleton. All of them pick up 1. So an interesting battle even within that secondary. All right, last one is mine, and I had someone different. I am going to give, and I know it wasn't a bunch of plays, but it was a couple that stood out to me and it was like manna from heaven to me when the tight end was getting the ball, scampering down the sideline. I believe it was on the drive where Dane Key, where they went for it on 4th down. There was a great play where it was one of the most significant run after catches of the night, I think, for Luke Lindenmeyer. And then the other one, people forget this play because the false start came shortly after it. And I still think he might have gotten in, but Lindenmeyer, there was a play where it was just kind of a quick flare out there where Raiola had to get rid of it quickly and kind of threw it behind Lindenmeyer, and he made a great catch, great hands behind him, but he's also kind of got some size as well, and he almost fought into the end zone. I thought maybe they were going to review it and thought he did get in. There was more than that, but those 2 plays alone were just sort of the type of tight end play that I have just been thirsty for with Nebraska. And this is nothing against Fedoni or anything else, because Fedoni's just he's a different type. And I think he's, going to maybe have some success in the NFL, but Lindenmeyer looks like all the tight ends that have frustrated me in the Big Ten by killing Nebraska.
Sure.
And the mainly Iowa tight ends, to be honest, but some of the others. And Nebraska used him the way those guys have been used. And listen, credit to Lindenmeyer here on this, because let's be honest, they move Heinrich Harburg over there. Obviously, they probably have big plans for him. Carter Nelson is a huge recruit, and he obviously has been dealing with injury, but Lindenmeyer has taken and run with this thing during the fall. I don't know that people expected him to be somebody that we're talking about. He was kind of the default,
right? He was like the default. Well, he's the guy that can block, so
yes, he's the blocking guy.
But he's there until Harburg and Nelson figure out.
Right. Well, I don't think that's true. I think he is legitimately the number 1 tight end right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved, not to take the subject too far off of Lindenmeyer, but I loved the I guess the Heine, the wild Heine, or
those were good.
The Heine push.
Yes.
That they broke out for this game. But there was another catch that Lindenmeyer had, and it was on Nebraska's last drive. And while it didn't end up in points and they ended up punting it back, it flipped the field. But when Cincinnati got to within 3, Nebraska came out and threw it right away 3 straight times. And Lindenmeyer was that first one, a little out pattern to the sideline, easy pitch and catch. I love to see that. I love to see, hey, we're going to put the ball in Dylan's hands. We're going to go down the field. We're going to kill this clock. And while it did not end up, ending the game, it did flip the field. And for Lindenmeyer to develop into this receiving threat is enormous, because you've got to have those safety valves. You've got to have those guys that you can trust on the line of scrimmage, because if you're going to develop a run game, you better have some good blocking tight ends. But you can't just telegraph it by saying, well, he's not going to get any. No, he got his on Thursday. I came away very impressed too. He would have gotten my 4th helmet sticker if I had one.
Yeah, you feel like he's really developed the receiving part of his game, because, like you said, he was always the blocking tight end.
Yeah.
And you said, okay, Thomas Fedoni is the
he was stereotyped that.
Yeah. But the receiving part of his game has come along nicely. And he talked this summer about Nebraska becoming tight end kind of taking a shot, whether he was taking a direct shot at Iowa or, kind of indirectly. Look, Iowa's killed Nebraska with tight ends, as you've mentioned. And that guy can be such an X factor for you, especially if he can do both, especially if they don't know if you're going out for the pass or if you're staying into run blocks. So yeah, Lindenmeyer has progressed nicely. I didn't quite give him a helmet sticker, but he's plenty useful this offense.
He got stereotyped as the blocking guy, and probably I'm guilty of it too, because he's a from Papillion, I think Papillion La Vista. Yep. He's 250, right?
He's a big guy.
He's not 6'7".
He wasn't Thomas Fedoni,
right? He's a very different, completely the opposite body type. And again, he reminds me so many of so many of those Iowas, not even the very top tier ones necessarily, but they always seem to have a guy like that. That's a weapon, and I hope you can be that. All right, let's take a break. We're going to count down the 5 things you're going to be talking about this Husker weekend with the morning drive. By the way, congratulations to Isaiah Hunter, the early lead. By the way, John, you've got number 1 and 2 on your team there. Hunter and Johnson were your first 2 picks, or 2 out of your first 3.
I fired my drafting department last year.
Yeah, I can tell.
I
can already feel that. 7:32. You're listening to the Friday Husker Tailgate on KLIN.
When you're thinking.
Here for Derek.
Tailgate edition of the Morning Drive, presented by Stonebridge Insurance and Wealth Management on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLI.
All right, let's get back to it. Kevin Suits joins us from 10:11 here in about 25, 30 minutes as well. I don't know what the mood's been like at 10:11 this week, guys. The big Ken Shimmick news. I'll maybe get a little insight from Kevin on that.
Are the flags at half-mast?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm just glad that the 10-11 tanning booth will finally be open because Ken's been living in there when he's not in the weather station.
I mean, Brad Anderson's been waiting it for 30 years. Kevin's been waiting it for like 23 years.
Ken, are you done? Ken, are you done? It's been 2 hours. Ken,
have you
he
heard
has
of
got the
skin
best
cancer?
tan I have ever seen. It is incredible.
He's an amazing man. He's an amazing man. All right, let's count them down. It is the 5 things we're going to be talking about this football weekend. So without any further ado, let's get it started with
number 5.
Well, one of the personnel sort of position battles that we had going on getting into the season looks like, at least for the time being, it's at least partially resolved. We heard from Matt Rule yesterday that at that left tackle position where you had 3 guys who rotated in against Cincinnati, that Gunnar Gatula, he said he's going to get the start. I kind of got the feeling that he is going to be the guy. Now, they may be playing a lot of people in this game, so this may not be relevant there. But the way Rule said it made it sound like he's the guy for now there instead of it being a 3-headed monster. It's interesting because you've got him, kind of the younger guy, although he had a lot of experience last year. You've got Prohaska there, who has been here quite a while and has just battled injury, but he's also kind of got this prototypical tackle body that seems like it would be so potentially so good. And you've seen flashes from him. And then you got the transfer from Alabama, who's, may have had some moments in that game, some good moments, but the false start there is what's going to be remembered from that game. I don't know what you guys think, but I kind of always thought Gatula was going to come out of this because he's the future at this position too.
Correct.
I was impressed with how he handled last year being thrown into the mix. I just kind of had him in my mind as the favorite the whole time. I don't know what you guys thought.
I think he is. I mean, he's the choice for now, but it would not surprise me at some point if Pritchett doesn't take this over, because it sounds like with Pritchett, if he can get over some of the mental issues, the physicality is there, the body type is there, the pedigree is there, that he's eventually going to take this position. The interesting thing is, and I get it, Pro Football Focus grades differently, I'm sure, than Nebraska's coaches do. So they're the ones making the decision. He had the fewest snaps of those 3 tackles. He had the lowest PFF grade of those 3 tackles. But yet he's the one that's going to get the start. I was under the impression that this rotation is not going to last for long, but I think we're still going to see all 3 this week, and I think we're going to see all 3 next week, not just because they're supposedly playing an undermanned opposition. I think the goal is to have it done by Michigan, that someone's going to have this job and be the number 1 guy by Michigan.
And by the way, I think I screwed that up. It's Corcoran. That's
Corcoran.
The battling for Prohaska's on the other side.
Right. Yeah,
so,
Prohaska's been slotted at right tackle. But it is interesting because, Corcoran's the veteran, Pritchett's the high talent guy. And what worries you is Pritchett's played big time football and a lot of it. And the mental side of it was what held him back at Alabama. And it appears that that's an issue that hasn't gotten fixed, or he hasn't been able to fix just yet. I mean, I think you're right in the impression that they're still going to rotate at left tackle this game and next game, but you're right. By the Michigan game, I think we're going to have some definition. One other thought to keep in mind here, whether it's this tackle spot or right tackle, Turner Corcoran has a pretty lengthy injury history. Teddy Prohaska has a pretty lengthy injury history. So even if we're looking at that Michigan depth chart and, for some reason, Turner Corcoran's your starting left tackle and Prohaska's your right tackle, that picture may change by November.
For sure. You're going to need more than 2 guys at that tackle position.
Speaking of Teddy, could I make the argument that if we listed all the offensive players in terms of most indispensable, he's 3rd on the list? Ooh. Dylan's 1st, Emmett's 2nd, and Teddy's 3rd.
Man,
in terms of most indispensable,
maybe.
Right now.
Although I think you probably are just using
Justin
one of those.
Evans?
Yeah, Evans
Justin
maybe
Evans
more than that.
might be my 3, but I'm not so sure. Teddy Prohaska's maybe 4th.
I just think maybe you're able to, since you got 3 guys at left, you eventually put one of those guys at right if he would go down. It'll be interesting, and I know we mentioned earlier we're going to be doing our crossover event with 1620 and KLIN, and Michael Severe is sitting in, but Michael's a guy who watches offensive line like a hawk, and I can't really watch football like he does, but he does. I'll be really interested. We heard very little, guys, about Rocco Spindler and what his performance looked like. And so I'm not totally sure that was kind of quiet in a guy who was the only player on the team who was getting all conference honors leading into the season.
He had the second highest PFF grade last week behind Justin Evans.
Okay.
So.
Well, and there were plays, guys. It wasn't consistent, but there were plays where there were huge running holes.
Yeah.
Yes, on Thursday.
Yeah, it felt, and remember who was the best player on Cincinnati, arguably? Corleone, the defensive lineman. So, in a sense, the Nebraska offensive line, especially in the interior, had the toughest matchup. And you're right, there were lanes there, some of which Emmett Johnson was able to take advantage of, some of which he was not. But, you wonder, especially with the interior line, if no news is good news, because it felt like Rocco did his job, and it felt like Justin Evans did his job. And for that matter, Henry Lutovsky, who's a captain for you. So it felt like the middle 3 did their job. You're still not sure on the outsides.
All right, moving on.
Number 4.
Well, we haven't talked about it yet, and that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Special teams. Was it the improvement that you hoped for? What did you see from special teams, and how does that bode, John, for the rest of the year?
It was both good and wait and see. Return game, not so much. A lot of fair catches. The last kickoff return didn't make it out to the 20-yard line. So that's still a work in progress. But I think one of the most positive things that came out of last Thursday was Nebraska has its 2 specialists.
Yep.
We knew that Archie was going to be the punter, and he delivered. I mean, dropped a couple of beauties down inside the 20-yard line, did exactly what was asked of him. But Kyle Kunanen, he nailed that field goal, that 52-yarder. We were sitting in that end, and so we had a good view of, how much it cleared. That thing cleared by a good 5 yards.
Yep,
so he had distance from 55, 56 plus. And I think you found your one kicker. And I think we talked about this last week that, out of those 3 guys, someone's going to emerge.
Sure.
I thought it might take a little bit longer, but I'm not so sure that we already haven't found that guy.
It kind of took one kick. It was
it took one kick.
That kick looked that good. I was sitting right on that end in the 3rd level, and it was like one of those home runs in baseball, John, where it's like a line drive, and you're like, "Oh, that got out in a hurry."
Yep.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
That field goal looked like.
Yeah, it was a beautiful kick. So I think that's probably one of the best things that came out of this is we're not worried right now about place kicking. Now it's time to work on the other part of special teams. They had the issue with the kickoffs, the one that went out of bounds. Fix that issue. So I from a specialist standpoint, I think Nebraska's in pretty good shape.
Yeah, the returns are still a work in progress, but you feel like, 1, you have guys that can help you there, and 2, that's more out of your control than how good your punter, how good your kicker. The only worry I have from the kicking perspective is, do you overuse Cunanan at kicking both field goals and kickoffs? And will he be able to
let's hope they
up?
score enough that they have to kick off a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that was kind of the nice part about having either John Hull or Tristan Alvano kick off, is that Cunanan could worry about just kicking field goals and extra points. Other than that, Cunanan's going to be great kicking the ball. And Archie Wilson, no first game jitters. I mean, 2 punts inside the 10, including the critical one in the 4th quarter that made it a 91-yard field. You had 91 yards margin for error on that last drive. Critical, important. I'm with John. Kicker and punter are solid as long as those guys stay healthy.
All right, moving on with the morning drive.
Number 3.
So Nebraska comes in as a 30-plus point favorite in this game. It's one of those classic kind of no-win games. If you blow them out, you were supposed to. If it's closer than expected, you're disappointed. So what best constitutes success in your mind, Nate, for this game?
One, everyone that came into this game upright leaves the game upright. So that's especially Dylan Raiola.
So nobody dies.
Yeah, no one dies. No one dies. No one hobbles off the field. Emmett Johnson, Dylan Raiola, played Ja'Cory Barney the bare minimum that you need to get so he can get that ankle right. None of the nobody gets hurt. You don't lose anybody. You don't lose any practice time. And then, do you control the game? I mean, a 35-point spread, and that's the neighborhood where that's been. You need to be really, really good offensively, and you need to be somewhat aggressive offensively. I'm not as worried about that as can you control the game? Can you sustain drives? And then can you work on the couple of things on the offensive side that felt like issues, as in, can you hit a big play or two? And can you, if you've got first and goal at the 7, is that a touchdown? And is that a touchdown basically every time? So from the offensive standpoint, hit a couple of big plays and convert in the red zone when you get there. Defensive side, I need to see better run stop, and I need to see the defensive line be active in the pass rush. This is your chance. They were totally neutralized on Thursday night against Cincinnati. I need to see something from those guys. So check those boxes, and if it ends up 28-3 instead of the 42-10 that it would need to be, or 42-7 that it would need to be to cover the spread, that's fine.
All right, John.
I would echo a lot of what you just said. I would add, develop that killer instinct. Go out there, be purposeful on every drive, take that comfortable lead into halftime, make sure that Dylan is eating celery or carrots or whatever by the fourth quarter. Develop the backups, develop the running backs. You're not these outside of these two games, maybe the Northwestern game, you're not going to have a lot of chances.
No.
Theoretically, to play a lot of guys. So make sure you get a lot of guys in there, but be purposeful. Be purposeful and go out there and execute. Pretend like this is Cincinnati again. Pretend like this is Michigan. Go out and execute. Play this game to your standard, and then get off the field healthy, as you said, and everything will be okay.
I'll put it the way I would have in the 90s. I want to see guys come in the game who don't have their name on the back of the jersey.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yes.
Do they do that anymore?
No, I don't think so.
I'm sure everyone's got a name by now.
That's when you knew it was a blowout.
Yes.
When they started bringing in the guys
17?
who they did not get their name on the back of the jersey. And
they're wearing their practice jersey because they didn't make them a game jersey.
They didn't even wash it from the freshman game the day before.
You get the 8th team quarterback in there, and it's like, who's that guy? And then you hear two people up in the south end zone cheering, "Oh, that's Billy from Pinkelman."
Yeah.
Oh, he was all state.
I babysat him.
All right.
Number 2.
Oh, triple shot there. I don't know. Does it feel all of this talk, all of these years, will Nebraska get alcohol ever at Memorial Stadium? It'll never happen. It was pretty clear that it was eventually going to happen. Now it has happened. And I don't know. How big of a deal does it feel like coming in? I mean, it surprisingly feels like a nothing burger. It kind of does to me too.
Maybe it's because we've had this long run up to it. Maybe it's because it was inevitable and was going to happen. But now that it's actually here, I know there's been talk that, they're not going to have enough in there. They're going to sell out. To me, it's still going to be interesting to see how it's all going to work, because as we've talked about many times, this is not the greatest stadium to move around in.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't like going to Arrowhead or going to Kauffman Stadium where, there's beer everywhere and there's bigger concourses. But yeah, this doesn't feel like as huge a deal.
That's what I feel.
As we would have thought even 5 years ago.
Sure.
Because and they've done it. They did it for the volleyball day. They did it for their concert.
Yeah, that's why.
So they've already started doing it at Pinnacle Bank and the ballpark. So I would just
everybody else does it.
I would just encourage folks, make sure to go out and support local. Cornhusker Crusher, the official craft brew of the Huskers from our friends at Cross Strain.
Nice.
That's on sale at the and we've tried it. It's very good.
Hey, I'm gonna have to try it out. But yeah, it's been such a gradual run up, and we have it at baseball, we have it at softball, we have it at the basketballs,
and it hasn't really.
And
at least on those, it just hasn't really. I mean, it's not been a bad thing or a good thing necessarily.
It's just
maybe a good
one
thing,
other thing that they've sold.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not demonstrably changed the Nebraska fans' behavior or mindset. I expect that to be a similar effect at Memorial Stadium. It's not going to be Raiders black hole in Oakland.
I didn't hear of any incidents that happened last week at Arrowhead Stadium, and they've been selling beer there for a while. We're all adults. We can handle it.
I bet I go to lots of basketball games. It just hasn't changed the experience whatsoever. And they're not those rabid, rioting, intoxicated Creighton fans. That's a very different situation when they basically
criminal
charge them
element
for free.
of society.
It still costs like $17.
Really?
Well, again, how crazy can people get except for super rich people when beers cost $15?
Well, it's those sweater vests that hold them back from getting too crazy.
Number 1.
All right, last one. I don't know. I thought it was a little bit of a surprising. Well, I mean, some of our picks tell the story, but Texas goes down, and a lot of people expected them to win. Notre Dame goes down to Miami. I thought a lot of folks thought that, North Carolina, that wasn't necessarily an upset, but how bad it was. And I'm probably forgetting some
Florida
other
State.
ones. Oh, that's the other one.
Florida State
Alabama goes
Bama.
down. I knew I was forgetting a huge one, maybe the big one. Yeah, the whole first week, I mean, kind of a refreshing. We didn't really know how to read the season coming in. That was kind of fun, I thought.
Well, I mean, and that's going to happen because a lot of new players, a lot of new faces. I mean, you looked at that preseason top 10, and I think it was like 7 of the top 10 all were starting first-year starting quarterbacks for that school. So there's a lot of changeover in college football, and the parity's kind of equaled out just a little bit more. So
kind of fun.
It is fun. Congrats to Florida State. They played a great game. And by the way, thank you, Boston College, for benching Castellanos last year, because that would have been the quarterback Nebraska faced in the bowl game. I don't know if that result goes Nebraska's way, assuming that he played like he did against Alabama. He was a difference maker.
Or that they've got those Nebraska transfers on defense.
Yeah, I heard James Williams' name called, Stephon Thompson's name called.
Yeah, Tony White's looking pretty good in Tallahassee right now.
He was a good defensive quarterback.
Kalen DeBoer's seat's getting a little warm. I mean, the Texas one didn't surprise me. Leave it to the national media to overhype Texas and forget about Ohio State. Ohio State's a really good and talented team. Notre Dame, Miami, that feels, Notre Dame probably should have won, or Notre Dame was the favorite coming in, but Miami is a good team they've built up through the portal. But boy, North Carolina, they might be asking for their money back on that deal. I mean, that thing looks and acts like an utter disaster.
See, you couldn't have asked for a worse situation for them. It's kind of, remember when Dion premiered, it was against a TCU team that had all this hype because they had just been in the title game, but they lost a bunch of guys, so they were overhyped. This TCU team, I think, was underhyped, and they came out and just dominated them in the second half. Talk about embarrassing. I mean, you've got all the North Carolina, you got Jordan and LT and all these famous Belichick guys,
all the
and
balloons.
they got destroyed.
All right, we got to take a break on that. 7:56, a little Big Ten rundown next. Goes to KLIN.
Oh.
Welcome back to the Friday Husker Tailgate on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
The Big Ten slate this weekend. A couple games tonight, Northern Illinois and Maryland, Western Illinois, Northwestern, happening at the same time as the Chiefs and the Chargers in Brazil. Then tomorrow, you got the Cy-Hawk Trophy, Iowa and Iowa State. We'll come back to that one on the picks. FIU is at Penn State. Yikes. Kennesaw State at Indiana. Maybe a little closer than the experts think. Illinois at Duke. That'll be a challenge for Illinois here. Darren Mensah, the Tulane quarterback, transferred to Duke, had a good game last week. Northwestern State at Minnesota. Grambling at Ohio State. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, Mickey Joseph said that was a bye game.
You want to see an ugly scene for Oklahoma State. They're going to Oregon this week. Yeah, Oklahoma State at Oregon. Well, one time that could have been a good game. Miami, Ohio at Rutgers. Middle Tennessee at Wisconsin. Georgia Southern at USC. And then Michigan at Oklahoma. Southern Illinois at Pittsburgh. Boston College at Michigan State. UCLA at UNLV, UC Davis at Washington. God, there's a lot of conference teams in this conference. So there you go. The Michigan-Oklahoma game, kind of the headliner. We'll talk more about that in the final hour of the show when Kevin Suits join us, opposition, disposition, and more. It's 8:01. You listen to the Friday Husker Tailgate on KLIN.
Home and away. Now streaming live on the KLIN app and at KLIN.com.
Join
Takes the snap, fade route, back run to the end zone. Touchdown, Huskers! Isaiah Hunter for the Husker touchdown.
Who do you think you're fooling? Nobody's thinking about their job the day before a Husker game.
Pedals the throw, blitz picked up. Harris went out deep right sideline. 50-50 ball. It's picked off. The black shirts with the dagger. Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick. Sails tonight for the Big Red. Drifts back to throw, dumps it to an underneath crosser. Goody made the catch, got popped. Ball's loose, but they say incomplete.
This is the Friday Husker Tailgate with Jack Mitchell, Nate Rohr, John Bishop, and Kevin Suits on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN. Do you know your foe? We can't guarantee you'll get along. It's the Friday Husker Tailgate Opposition Disposition on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
It's the hour of the Friday Husker Tailgate on KLIN.
There it is. He's getting ready. He's going to need it tomorrow night with a home game. Nate Rohr, not only doing his duties here at KLIN, but also as the PA man for Memorial Stadium. And not only Nate, John Bishop, myself here, but Kevin Suits, 1011 sports director, joins us now. Hello, Kevin. How are you doing today?
I'm awake now that I heard Nate.
Yeah, that's all you need.
I'm just wondering if anybody moved into the city or the area over the past, 5 months, hasn't been to a Nebraska football game and was listening.
Get ready.
What was that?
It'll be
it's only just begun.
By the way, I notice everyone who does that. I was even watching the Cowboys and the Eagles game last night, and they do it as well. I'm not saying you invented that, but a lot more. You've been doing it for a long time. There's a lot more people who are, I think, imitating greatness here. With this.
Well, that's very kind of you.
Were you doing that from the very beginning, or did that come around later?
It came around. You know where it came from? Oklahoma.
Oh,
we had kind of dipped our toe into it and, done it a little and then not done it. And then the OU game, I think their PA guy did it basically every third down. And they were like, hey, do this.
Yeah.
And it has been a thing ever since. And now it's just a thing.
So the first time you did it in game, had you practiced in the bathroom ahead of time, Nate? Did you put a clock on yourself? How long? What? Where's the crescendo?
No, I just did it. Now I trust my ability to yell for a while. I have one skill on this planet, and that's yelling. So I had faith in my ability to at least hold it out for a while. But you just get a little extra wind power behind it, and you can get it all the way up to when the center, waddles over the ball, puts down his hand, and gets ready to snap.
I can neither confirm or deny, but there may have been some wagers in the press box over under on time.
Time?
Just saying.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's like the national anthem.
Do we have a
Super Bowl.
leaderboard? What's the PR here?
I think Cole Stukenholtz has this.
He probably does.
KLIN contributor Cole Stukenholtz somewhere.
Does it need to be early in the game, or does it need to be an exciting moment in the game to get the best length?
Well, there are a lot of factors. So I need the last play. This is very mechanical.
Yes,
here.
now I'm curious.
So I need the last play to be really simple, ideally incomplete pass, so that I can quick spit out pass falls incomplete, intended for number 1, Joe Smith. From the 42-yard line, it's third and hit it. If it's a run play where we're picking guys off the pile to figure out who made the tackle, gets a little hectic. But ideally, I get the last play quick, so I get the second down play quick, get the spot quick, and then unleash hell.
Yes.
You could have had a problem with Cincinnati, because the tempo that they were playing with in the fourth quarter.
That's true.
That would have, that would have affected the third down call from you, Nate.
It wouldn't have hit. I would have had to ditch it early. My understanding.
A third down.
Yeah, from the 42, it's all right. But
have you ever been scolded by the officiating crew or anybody that's a part of the game management?
Funny you mention it. The last visit by Kirk Ferentz.
Yes.
The old man. And I don't know if it was specifically me or our music, but he yelled at the refs that we had sound going too late into the snap. My understanding is, and I'll double check this tomorrow, my understanding is you can make noise over the PA system, either you as the PA guy or the music, until the center touches the ball, prepared to snap. So you hold it out until then, and if it happens to maybe kind of sort of get close, that's okay. And maybe if it's but you come up as close to the line as possible, especially against those people.
I mean, Jack, we can remember back to the days, right, when they would stop games. This would happen in the pros too, where the quarterback would say, "I can't hear," and they would stop the game, and the ref would hit the mic and say,
"Give you a warning."
Yeah, give the crowd a warning. Now you've got all these silent counts and people are clapping and all this other stuff that it doesn't happen anymore.
That's wild that happened.
That used to happen all the time, and it would drive me crazy.
And the ref would, I can't believe they did that.
And then all it would do was incite the crowd to make even more noise, because then it would just get worse. And you know.
Well, there's a great clip. It might have been a Monday night game, but it was Chiefs Broncos. We were just down at Arrowhead, and it was kind of where Arrowhead cemented its reputation as a tough place to play, where John Elway backed off, the whiny horse-faced jerk that he was.
Wow.
Backed off, pointed to his ears.
That's Hall of Fame horse-faced whiny jerk to you.
Yeah, that's very true. But backed off and whined once again. We need to be quieter so they can hear the snap count.
Oh my gosh.
Then he moved on to killing his agent in a golf cart.
Wow.
And the rest is
You're not bitter at all.
No. Hey, I'm a Chiefs fan, so I don't
can tell.
Indeed.
All right. On that note,
Kevin's face was priceless. Where are we going here?
On that note, let's take a look at Akron and their illustrious history, including, despite everyone wants to talk about the rain out, the storm out in 2018, which of course we all remember, and with various emotions. The two teams did match up prior to that, and I remember this game because I was listening to in my dorm room in college. There was no TV. Sometimes there used to be no TV for games, and so I was listening to I guess it would have been let's see, that would have been after Kent.
Warren Swain.
So it was Warren Swain. It was Warren Swain. Oh yeah, that was his second year doing games, and 1997, John, and you pulled some clips from us for this game.
Yes, probably the most famous play of this game.
Yes,
was the first touchdown of the game from Mr. Makovica.
All right, here's what that sounded like.
And the handoff to Makovica, breaks tackles inside the 10. He's down to the 4-yard line, still on his feet. He's in. Second, third, and fourth effort, and Makovica scores. It looked like he was going to be down at the 4, and he kept on going. Unbelievable.
That is Warren Swain's most aggressive call I've ever heard.
Yeah, he was
I
pretty
feel
fired
like
up.
He was asked to ramp it up a little by a year or two.
Man.
And he did.
I don't know. I'm sure I heard that. I was listening to it live, but I did not remember that. But that highlight they used after that for the next 20 years, maybe still today.
In the tunnel walk,
on the tunnel walk, or on the Husker Vision, on various highlights, because he did this thing where he kind of ended up pushing so hard. He was leaning and kept his balance and chopping his feet and ran into the end.
I don't think people give
the ground.
him enough credit as maybe being the best fullback Nebraska ever had. I mean, Tom Rathman gets a lot of love. Andre Franklin gets a lot of love. He was, and if you go back to that season, 1997, he had a ton of big plays. He scored a ton of touchdowns on the ground. In fact, he scored 2 in this game to get the season off. And that play is kind of his highlight, because it's incredible balance, power, and it was the first of many touchdowns that day.
Yeah. And then, you want to hear a second touchdown here?
Yeah, sure.
Second touchdown. Let's see.
Scott Frost is going to be changing the play. They've got wideouts both ways. Here is a handoff straight ahead to Makovica. He barrels in for the touchdown, untouched.
There you go. And
easier.
then we had another running back with a big play in this game. Amon Green, a 45-yard touchdown as well in this game.
They send the wing back, Chevin Wiggins in motion to the left. Here's Scott Frost running the ball, pitches it off to Amon Green. Down the near side, he goes 30, 20, 15, 10, 5. He's in. Touchdown.
One of many big touchdowns that year for Amon.
One of the things I remember about that game is they kept throwing it to this freshman, a wide receiver that I had not heard of. And I was like, boy, they're really using this guy from Tecumseh a lot. I don't know if I've heard of him before. His name?
Matt
Davidson.
Davidson.
Yes, Matt
Davidson.
I remember that, just being surprised. I was like, I think I heard of him from high school. I
had
expect
just
he'd
called
get so
his
much
state
time.
title game, the previous winner, on 10-11.
Really?
Because he was in the state championship game for Tecumseh in, was it class C1?
C2, probably.
C2, probably. Yeah.
So that was a season opener that year.
Yep.
And I don't know how many, I don't know. I don't know how many catches he had. I just remember being surprised that a true freshman in his first game was getting that much action.
And then he disappeared. We never heard from him the rest of the season.
It's weird.
Yeah,
It's
man.
weird.
Hope
Whatever
life
did
turns out
happen to
fine.
him?
I don't know
either. That's an interesting question. By the way, the game after that was the infamous Central Florida game.
Oh, yes.
The Scott Frost, Frankie London game.
Yes.
Right. And then Nebraska went up to Seattle and just hammered number 2 Washington. After that, I mean, destroyed Kansas State. After that, I mean, they just rolled after that all the way up to that Missouri game. And then the Missouri game happened. And, well, we know the rest is history. So
You mentioned Matt Davison, and you played the clip with the Joel Makovica run. And it sounded like Warren Swain gave up on Makovica at about the 5. Remember, they usually, you talk about what they use in the tunnel walk, they usually play Musburger's call of the Davison catch instead of local radio because Warren Swain gave up on that ball.
he thought it was dropped.
He said, over the middle, incomplete, or not. Touchdown!
Instead of Frost over the middle, juggle, diving, touchdown.
Nebraska. Davison on the deflection.
Davison on the deflection. Yes. The let's see. I don't have I was going to get the stats here, but I can't find it right now. Anyway, let's talk about Akron. Akron's nickname, guys,
Zips.
the Zips. But do you know why? Do you know what the Zips? And it's not even necessarily an old-timey reporter who did it, but you know what the Zips is referring to?
Doesn't it have something to do with the zipper?
Yeah, it does. It does. In 1925, university held a student contest to name its athletic team. So if an old-timey reporter didn't name them, they had it's one of those two things.
That's
for
true.
Almost every school.
Yeah. Yep.
Margaret Hamlin's suggestion, Zippers, which was inspired by B.F. Goodrich's rubber galoshes, won $10 in January, $1 or $10 in January 1926. The Akron Beacon Journal endorsed the name, but some, like Gaston Felcher, criticized it for being named after women's overshoes.
Oh, jeez.
So a woman named them, and then you had the men saying, "This is women's. The only women wear these galoshes with zippers." Apparently, it lasted about 25 years, but as zippers became common in clothing, the association with men's trousers and women's dresses led athletic director Kenneth Red Cochran to short it to Zips in September of 1950. This created a new problem. The Zips did not have a visual mascot. So in October 1952, the student council, led by Chairman Bob Savoy, began a mascot search. Dick Hansford, UA Vice President and Dean Emeritus of Student Services, suggested, of course, a kangaroo.
Sure.
Why? Obviously, it's the
Naturally.
natural choice, inspired by a boxing kangaroo comic strip. He believed kangaroos, known for their power and agility, would be a fitting symbol. The council approved the kangaroo mascot on May 1st, 1953, despite initial student concerns about a name change to kangaroos. Harold Coleman, editor of the Buck-to-Light, argued against it, saying other animals like hippopotamuses were also unique.
Yeah.
A 1953 student report revealed mixed reactions. Freshman Jeanette Curia liked the pep and energy, while Larry Howes wanted an American animal. Junior Mary Ziegler saw it as a step toward a new tradition. Students voted on the kangaroo drawing, selected Ted Dick's feisty marsupial in a sweater, beanie, and boxing gloves, complete with a zipper on its pouch, first appearing in the fall of 19 55. And the first mascot, then called Mr. Zip, debuted that year in the Acme Zip game in the Rubber Bowl. Deming recalled the costume looked more like a cow than a kangaroo, and it was hot, sweaty, and impractical. He performed hops and dances, avoiding losing his papier-mâché head. He maintained the character for a year before someone else took over for him, made infrequent appearances for the next decade until 1965, when a new and improved costume and the name Zippy were introduced, worn by Charles Hetner. And so it's a weird combination of things that don't really match, to be honest. We've got the galoshes, we got the zipper, we got the kangaroo. I feel like that's where they went wrong. They should have, like the galoshes made of rubber, right? It's that they're the, if you've been listening to our show this week, industry, they're the tire and rubber, Goodyear, all these tire companies, and so it makes sense with that. And then the kangaroo just came, and I don't understand. I mean,
and they haven't had a winning season since.
It's just it's odd,
or close to it.
It is odd. How about some notable alums? My favorite alum here of Yacht Rock fame, James Ingram, who is known for many things, but one of my favorite things, debuting with Michael McDonald on Yamo Be There. And then it remains the line on the, what is it, the 40-year-old version, when he says, I've heard Michael McDonald sing Yamo Be There so many times, Yamo about to burn this place down. Let's see. Yvette Nicole Brown, you probably don't know that name, but she's Shirley on the show Community. She went to Akron. Basically, the entirety of the band, the Black Keys, went to Akron University. They're from Akron. And then a couple of Notre Dame coaches, oddly enough. Both Era Parseghian and Jerry Faust were Akron graduates. So there you go. Their biggest NFL alum is Jason Taylor, if you're wondering about that. Jason Taylor is an Akron guy. Guys, in terms of this year, we've got one data point from them, and it's a weird 10-0 game against Wyoming. I don't know if any of you guys have delved into this at all, but Wyoming got a field goal in the second quarter and a touchdown in the fourth, and it's kind of it. That was kind of it.
Wyoming gained a lot of yards in that game, but they couldn't finish drives.
Yep.
Yeah. It did not look like a pretty game whatsoever. Their quarterback, Ben Finley, was 16 for 38.
Not great.
For 139 and 1 touchdown. Their leading rusher, Marquise Williams, 6 carries for 30 yards. Their leading receiver was Sean Patrick, 4 receptions. He's probably their best weapon on offense, 4 receptions, 47 yards. They did not sack Wyoming, but Wyoming couldn't really get it going offensively either for the most part, at least in terms of scoring points. Like I said, the 1 touchdown in the game. As we talked about earlier, Joe Moorhead, though, is their coach, and he's very respected in the coaching community. Head coach at Mississippi State, offensive coordinator, coach at Oregon, offensive coordinator at Penn State as well. Spent a lot of time at Fordham as well, but they've had 1 winning season since 2005. They haven't won more than 4 games in the last 7 years. And it's just these MAC schools, guys, it's tough for these MAC schools the more and more you hear. But there's becoming more distance, I think, in the top of the bottom of college football, and the bottom is really that entire conference, the very bottom. So, that's kind of it. But Joe Moorhead's offense is his thing, right? Yeah. He just hasn't always had the parts to play with. So we'll see if he can get it going at all with them. I don't know if you guys have anything else about them this year, but it's tough. Finley started his career at North Carolina State, went to Cal last year, threw 2,600 yards, 16 touchdowns. And so he's got a decent group of receivers to work with as well. Tight end Jake Newell is probably one of their other biggest weapons as well. He's a JUCO transfer. So,
well, it's an RPO offense. So you're gonna have to have some discipline, play your assignments. The guys on the edge are going to have an important task in this game. You heard Matt Rule in the clips we had earlier. They kind of have a 3-level passing game. Illinois was able to keep them down. I think Nebraska will have, equal success. I wouldn't panic if they score. I know a lot of folks will look at it and say, oh my God, Wyoming didn't let them score. It's probably going to happen because hopefully Nebraska will get the jump on them early, get a lot of the backups in the game. But I think Husker should have an easy time today. tomorrow.
Do you guys think Nebraska's had? I don't know when the last time was, but I heard you were talking about this on your show yesterday, John. Josh had pulled up the Bill Connolly ratings of these two teams. I don't know when that Nebraska last had two teams that were this lowly rated in a row. I'm sure it's happened, but I don't know when. It's been a while back. What you've got here, because you got Akron, who's one of the bottom 5 teams according to the ratings, the metrics in FCS. And then Houston Christian is like 75 spots lower than they are.
Well, the scheduling for Nebraska over the past, 5 to 10 years, they've had a lot of conference games early in the season. So that makes it really hard to have back-to-back cupcakes, so to say.
Right.
So you probably do have to go pretty far back in time where Nebraska's had 2 consecutive opponents at home, no less, that are, what these two are for Nebraska, Akron and then Houston Christian next week.
Yeah.
I'm pretty stumped as far as just 2, because usually the other part of it is it felt like Nebraska's scheduling philosophy was always, okay, we'll play one good non-conference game. We'll play one middle tier non-conference game, a Mountain West team, a team like that. And then we'll play a very low FBS or maybe an FCS team. But that it seems to have shifted to where the 2 are weak, and then maybe there's one that challenges.
Well, when Nebraska's played like, say, South Dakota State, it was always preceded by, at the time, a non-conference game against Washington, or, when they went out to Autzen and played Oregon. So pretty strategic, actually, with the non-conference scheduling, that you would open with a lighter opponent, then you'd have a big one, and then you'd follow that up with a lighter opponent.
Yeah.
But it feels like college football has shifted there. I mean, we were talking about the good games that were on the docket last week, whether it was Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame at Miami, LSU, Clemson. There were a lot of good games last week. It's pretty thin slate this week. It feels like teams want to start with the one big game because you can have a bunch of surprises. You can have a very different picture, and then kind of 2 games to get right. And then you open up conference.
Well, college football wants that too. They want the marquee games on opening week, whether it's Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. They want some juice for everybody to really enjoy, the opening week. And then, Nate, you're right. If you look at this week's slate, there's not a whole lot of appeal there. There are a few nice games. There's only one matchup between rated teams.
Right.
OU, Michigan, yeah.
And I thought it was bizarre that last night, Thursday night, there were 0 college football games.
I think a lot of that they kind of left because of the NFL kind of taking over Thursday night.
But still, last week, opening night, for week 1, Thursday, there were 15 to 20 college football games. So you go from 15 to 20. And frankly, I wanted an alternative to Cowboys Eagles. The game ended up being closer than everybody thought, but I still want to work the remote a little bit and go back and forth. And I wanted a little college football variety, because now you've really inundated Saturday. It's the day to watch college football. I would have appreciated a few games last night. Give me a MAC game.
I think you'll get a few later in the season, but usually that first Thursday night, when the NFL is opening their season, they've just completely vacated that day. But I think there's a few more Thursday games coming up, and like tonight we've got 4 more games. None of them are really any good, but yeah, I would agree. I would think, just completely ceding to the NFL isn't the best strategy, because we used to have some great games on Thursday.
But tonight there's an NFL game too. So it's like they're still willing to put a college football game or 2 up against the Chiefs, no less. So
although it's a streaming service game and a little less traditional than, hey, it's on NBC, Mike Tirico's.
Well, remember the Sports Broadcasting Act, this is the only Friday that the NFL can be on until after, Thanksgiving.
And next year, Friday falls later, so they can't even do that next year. By the way, 2012, Arkansas State and Idaho State back-to-back. Maybe. Idaho State's was FCS, I believe.
Yeah.
And then
that was a real stinker.
06, you had Louisiana Tech, and then you had Nicholls State. And that was a
my only other thought is when they had that random Bethune-Cookman game, late season. It was like week 8, 9, 10.
To replace Akron.
Who was the Big Ten team that they played before or after Bethune-Cookman? Maybe that could possibly be a window.
Ohio State was after, and Minnesota was before.
Right.
So
yeah.
But that's because they had to shoehorn that in because the Akron game.
But Nebraska did win that Minnesota game. People forget Scott Frost.
But still, that's not I mean, we're not
Yeah.
even. That's not
Nope.
even close to the same discussion of playing Akron
And
or
I don't
Houston
even know if
Christian.
Houston Christian is as good as that Bethune-Cookman team. Yeah.
Yeah, the team they boat raced last week was because Bill Connolly of
It's an
ESPN
NAIA team.
he ranks every college football team, and the team that they beat was like third from the bottom, and there was
Omaha
over
West
700
Side would be
teams.
2-point favorites over them.
Probably.
Millard South might be a touchdown with all the D1
Yeah,
guys
exactly.
there.
That was the team I should have said. All right, we'll take a break. Hit the round table next. See what everybody thinks going into this game against Akron. Whole team's here. We'll keep talking about it next. It's a Friday Husker Tailgate on KLIN.
Huskers, home and away.
Welcome to KLIN.
Now streaming live on your Amazon device and at KLIN.com.
I will now connect you to the live stream.
to the Friday Husker Tailgate on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Initial research, I haven't looked them all up that people have submitted, but in the Sagarin, I think these are the worst. I think this is the worst back-to-back games.
It's pretty
so
bad.
Far. I haven't searched all of them, but the ones that we mentioned, the 06 one wasn't close. The 02 one we looked up wasn't close. This is so far it. So anyway, I'll be listening to them here on KLIN. We've got kickoff at 6:30, pregame at 2:30. And look, it's going to be a night atmosphere. It is, and we heard Matt Rule talk about how significant that was. But Kevin, we haven't had a chance to really talk to you in the aftermath, and I know you were back here in Lincoln, and you didn't get the joy of traveling down I-29 at least on the day that we did. You came in later when everyone was going the other direction.
I'll tell you, Saturday going down to Kansas City was a piece of cake. I don't know what anybody's talking about.
It was like the scene in of Field of Dreams. All the cars line up one way, and you're going out of the Field of Dreams. Basically,
we must have left it at the perfect time because Josh and I left early Friday morning, probably. Well, actually, it wasn't even early, like 8:30. But then I heard the nightmare of everyone coming back like around noontime. And so we missed it. But
even Saturday morning was packed going back.
Incredible. Well, a lot of folks stayed behind probably for that Royals game.
Yep, the Kansas City Royals game. And you know, my drive down to Kansas City, my alarm hit at 4 a.m. Saturday morning. And so as we're navigating, you know, I didn't have to do any detour. Like a lot of people are like, oh, you might want to take a different route. Yeah. Like I'm trying to identify like, well, was this one of the slowdown spots? Was this one of the slowdown spots? Because you do notice where, you know, 2 lanes becomes 1 lane because of construction. There's a couple of them, but having nobody on the road and hearing all the horror stories of everybody that was going down either Thursday or Friday, a totally different deal.
I was off 29 till Platte City, or I was going to get on at Platte City, and I still didn't. But when I drove over the overpass where you could see I-29 going toward Kansas City from Platte City, and it was just bumper to bumper. It was crazy.
And on the topic of the drive back, you know, my son went down to the game on Thursday, and then he was coming back and was supposed to go to school Friday, you know, but going to miss part of the morning. And we even had to call the office and tell him, like, he's not going to be, you know, in period, whatever it was, because traffic coming back was
that tight.
Backed up. Yeah. Everybody had the same idea. Everybody's kind of traveling at the same time that was coming back Friday morning. Man, what an adventure, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've all kind of given our thoughts on the game, and Nate and I have all week. We haven't heard from you, Kevin. And I know you watched it back during and afterwards. Just kind of tell us what your take overall on Nebraska's performance in that game was.
I'll start with Dylan Raiola because I think that's just something I'm going to keep my eye on the entire season. I said 70% completion. What was he at? 78. I thought he was efficient. I know fans are a little bit uneasy about, like, let's stretch the field. I want to see his arm. Like, there's a lot of checkdowns and a lot of simple throws. He made the throws when he needed to. At the end of the day, they got the win. So I'll start with Dylan Raiola. I thought he managed the game pretty well, and they didn't ask him to do too much. That's going to be actually boring but effective. Like that might be the MO for Dylan Raiola this year. You know, if you're boring, that's probably it means you're doing a pretty good job. And so from a quarterback standpoint, that's a pretty good mode forward for Nebraska. Is just don't ask him to do too much and stay away from the turnovers. So that was good. It was kind of game one. I think the secondary, I've always felt like it's the strength of the team. And I thought that they played like that. And, you know, Andrew Marshall, excuse me. Like, I think he's a pretty good player. You know, fans that didn't go to the open practice, they found out that, like, no, he's a dude. You know, there's a reason why he's a black shirt after being here just a few months. So I was impressed with the secondary. Well, overall, the game, you know, they won a close game, you know, not to be too lazy with my take here, but it was a game that was in the balance at the end, and they made a winning play. And there was a lot of fans probably watching that game late Thursday night thinking, oh, no, new year, same result, you know, same movie, seen it over and over again. But it ended up differently, and really happy that Malcolm Hartzog made the play because of the guys in the secondary. He's maybe the smallest personality. He's just a guy that is a little more blue collar than the others with no, you know, pomp and circumstance and too big of a show with him. So Hartzog makes a play. They celebrate, and the scene at Arrowhead was pretty cool.
Yeah. It was very loud there. Guys, we talked about some of the things we liked, some of the things we didn't like. One thing we haven't got to a whole lot yet. And John, I continue to go back to what you said coming into the game last week. And that was about, havoc plays for the defense, and just those were not there to the degree that you're going to want them to be. And that probably, honestly, if I'm talking about my concerns, and I said my piece about, look, week 1 does not apply for all of the weeks, but that probably was the biggest, honestly, surprise to me out of the game in terms of what Nebraska did or didn't do.
I think similar to how Dylan had to have a lot of checkdowns because Cincinnati was going to play that 3-deep shell. I think the same thing can kind of be said, and to excuse away part of the reason why they didn't have a lot of havoc plays, because they were trying to keep Sorsby contained. They had confidence in the guys in the back end. And so you didn't see a lot of exotic pressures on Thursday night. You didn't see a lot of 5-man pressures out of Nebraska because they were concerned. They were really concerned that Sorsby was going to hurt them with their legs, and he did at times. But I wouldn't be overly concerned that there's not havoc plays to be made, because remember, havoc plays also include pass breakups and interceptions. They did get the forced fumble from Vincent Shavers, even though that was an absolutely stupid play call by Cincinnati to not run out the clock. That was a great play by Shavers to make that contact, force that fumble, and set the team up. So
that's true.
I think part of the lack of havoc was the way that they wanted to play the game defensively. I think you'll see more of those. I thought Williams-Nwaneri had a really good debut. He was out there an awful lot. I was a little surprised before the season that he was going to that he got as much playing time as he did, but I think he earned it, had the second most tackles on the team. So I think those things are going to come around. It's just based on the matchups. When you can have the secondary that you do, and we talked about it earlier with Sierra Wright. When you can take away a quarter or a half of the field because of one guy, they didn't challenge him once. I think that's going to open up some things down the road for John Butler and that defense.
Yeah, I was wondering, who did you guys, what you talked about in Nwaneri, and I think that's what I'm wondering is who's going to come out as the playmaker in this front 7? Who's that likely to be? I think we don't know yet, but I think they've got to have a couple of guys because the loss of Ty Robinson is significant. The loss of some of those linebackers. I mean, even MJ Sherman, these guys are significant. Nate, who do you kind of see, or who would you like to see maybe become more of a playmaker and look like it through these next few games?
Well, I think Williams-Nwaneri is going to have a good chance to finish off some things in this game because he was the one guy on the defensive line that was showing me something. Rest of the defensive line, Keona Davis, Van Poppel, pretty quiet. So I think Nwaneri is maybe my most likely candidate on the D line. And then Deshaun McCullough, I think there's a lot of promise there. There's a lot of excitement there about him. Veteran guy, very athletic, very versatile, can do whatever you need him to do. And I think he can be that sort of guy in the linebackers. Watson Trent, I've always perceived as a guy who would make quite a few tackles, really. I was surprised he didn't make more tackles in the Cincinnati game. But I never saw him as the guy that would be sacks, tackles for loss, etc. And Shavers would probably be the other big guy to make plays, to be the guy who's rushing the passer, tackles for loss.
For sure.
I thought it was really interesting the other day when John Butler was kind of revisiting the Cincinnati game. He equated what Cincinnati did offensively to a high school football game, how they basically just ran the receivers downfield, nobody's open, and the quarterback just scrambled. So I thought that was really telling because you got a better idea of what the coaching staff was looking at. And when they're trying to scheme anything up, so a havoc play is kind of tough because what are you going to do? Bring pressure? He's just going to run. Like he's looking to run. True. And so the defensive coordinator is saying that it's almost like recess when you're playing, no pads, 5-on-5 with your buddies, and everybody just runs around. And then they go, 1 apple, 2 apple, 3 apple, Mississippi, whatever you're calling. And then the quarterback runs. It's actually not even football. So it's really hard to make any kind of assessment of what Nebraska's defense is capable of when that's what you're going up against. And I don't know that we're really going to have a good idea until the Michigan game. And even from a John Butler's perspective, how much are you even going to show defensively against Cincinnati when they're doing that? You're not going to show anything against Akron. You're not going to show anything against Houston Christian. So disguising coverages, they'll do a little bit of it. But, a corner blitz, we're not seeing that till the end of September.
No.
Yeah.
the pressures.
And you may not even see it then because you'll have another running quarterback.
Right.
Against the
So
Wolverines.
some of the things that they probably want to do defensively and, some of the plays that they probably have in their bag that create havoc, we're not going to see them for a while.
That's true.
So I'm really withholding judgment on anything from the front seven on Nebraska's defense. If anything, I'll just look at the secondary, and they've got dudes back there.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm excited to see who's going to pick a few passes this weekend because it's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. And Shavers is a very good one too. I think you're exactly right on him being a part of that group as well. By the way, I was looking at this box score from this Akron game against Wyoming. Yikes. Did you got any of you? I didn't watch any of this. I don't know if anyone did, but you think Nebraska was not passing it downfield. Akron was 16 for 38 passing for 3.7 yards per pass.
Yeah.
That's still better than Cincinnati.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. And that was the other thing I wanted to mention too. When Nebraska did occasionally get in the backfield, they sometimes could kind of get their hands on Sorsby, but man, he just got away so often. They have got to be able, and this has been an issue for a few years, is you got to not only get in the backfield, but you got to complete the sack. And you've got quarterbacks. Sorsby did a good job, frankly, getting away, being elusive, being strong. And they've got to be able to actually complete some of those sacks as well. Real quick, Kevin, before we take a break to get to the picks, I'm curious. These are kind of no-win games in some ways. We're just talking about the opponents who appear to be overmatched. What constitutes a success for Nebraska in a game, I guess both weeks, but especially this week?
Well, I think it's a chance for the defensive line, which is, probably the subject of a lot of criticism of the fan base or uncertainty of the fan base right now. It's a chance for that defensive line to establish its rotation and also gain some confidence. I think that's the biggest measure of success is, can you control the game start to finish? And when you do that, which players specifically really show out?
Mm-hmm.
And you hope that it's a guy or two that hasn't had a ton of game action,
Yeah.
so that they have, building confidence and starting to believe in not only themselves, but the way that they can contribute to the team offensively or defensively. And then I think also special teams. We haven't really talked about it here in this segment, but, just continuing to watch Archie punt the football, pin guys inside the 20, inside the 10. The field goal operation looked pretty clean, and that's a very distinct area of improvement. Good snap, good hold, and I think Hunan's a pretty good kicker.
Yeah, I mean, if they have what it looks like is a solid, what Matt Rule called battery, the snap, the hold, the kick, and then the specialist in the kicker and the punter, that is going to go a long way. Coach, whoever the coach is, that's going to go a long way, I think, in making special teams better. Because
again,
having good field goals and punts won the game. I mean, it literally did.
I think boring is good with the Akron game. Because if the special teams just boots in a few field goals, all PATs are clean, that's boring, but that's good.
Yeah.
Archie has let's just say he averages 42 yards a punt. Probably boring, but it's good, especially if you're getting, hopefully he doesn't have to punt the whole lot.
Yeah.
Let's hope we don't see Archie much these next two games.
That's right.
Kevin, last question, just a minute here before we got to go to break, but there's been a lot of talk about how Emmett Johnson was used, how much he was used. I guess, what did you kind of see from him, and how is he ideally used in your mind this year?
I like that. I know they want to get the backups going and a little more Mekhi Nelson and Isaiah Mosey, and I just give him the ball. I think he's really good, and I love his versatility. He can catch the football. He's good in space. He's now proven he can run between the tackles, and he can take on a load of 20 to 25 to maybe upwards to 30 carries in a game. And that's the way I would like them to use Emmett Johnson. I know that for the duration of the season, you don't want to get your guy banged up too much, but I like to see him, like what Dana Holgorsen said, he was hot. Just feed him, let him get hot.
Yeah.
Don't just keep the burner on 3, crank that sucker up and let Emmett cook.
If he can pop off just a long one of these times, they're going to have a hard time going away from him, I think, despite what Holgorsen said and others said. So we'll see. We will see. All right, we're going to get our break now. The picks. Well, last week looked a lot like last year did in terms of who had success, actually. We'll tell you what happened last week, and we'll look at some interesting games coming up this week, plus the upset picks. That's all coming up after this. Friday Husker Tailgate rolls on KLIN.
Husker football hosts Akron at Memorial Stadium. Tomorrow, game day broadcast presented by Liberty First Credit Union. Kickoff at 6:30 p.m. Pre-game at 2:30.
This is the voice of Husker.
Bragging rights means everything to these guys. Let the trash talk begin. It's time to call your shot in the Friday Husker Tailgate Pigskin Picks of the Week. Presented by Exchange Bank on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Last week, we're going to get going right away. So we will go John, me, Nate, Kevin. Illinois at Duke, John.
With apologies to the partner to my left, I'm taking Duke.
I'm not, Kevin. I'll take Illinois.
Illini.
My alma mater.
I figured you would go that way. Iowa State, Cyhawk.
Cyclones.
Cyclones for me, too.
ISU.
Make it a sweep.
Wow. Woo! Kansas at Missouri, renewing the rivalry. Amazing, John.
This is going to be a good one. Mizzou.
I got Kansas.
Rock Chalk.
MIZ.
Michigan at Oklahoma, the headliner of the entire week. John.
Boomer.
Michigan.
Ooh, okay.
Ooh.
Upset of the week. Touchdown or more underdog. John, who do you have?
I'm going to America's greatest conference, the Big East. Give me UConn +7 over Syracuse.
Charlotte is getting 13.5 at home against Bill Belichick in North Carolina. Could the wheels completely fall off?
Let's go.
I don't know, but let's find out.
I'm going Western Kentucky, 7.5 point dog against Toledo. Wrong team's favored.
Okay.
Rice is at home against Houston, getting 14. Give me Rice.
Rice looked better last week. Back to the option. All right, what's the score for Nebraska Akron, John?
41-7 red.
Ooh, I was right close to that. I've got 52-6 Nebraska.
42-10. Good guys.
41-6. I was digit off of John.
Very close, Auburn. That's it for the show. We will see you next week. For Kevin, for John, for Nate, for Kenny, I'm Jack. We'll see you later on KLIN.
Husker